What's up, everyone? This is the Next Take podcast with Mikel
and Tanyka.
where we have conversations on different topics. So today is a bonus episode for our supporters out there, and Tanyka is gonna present us with some great topics.
Yeah, we're just gonna go through the topics. It's bonus episode for June, so we're just gonna go through the topics as we go along. Not gonna say exactly what's gonna come up. We're just gonna go through it. That's what we're
Mhm,
gonna do. That's what we
mhm,
usually do for these
uh,
episodes. So
mm,
the first thing that I'm gonna mention
mhm,
um, is that the beer store is closing 9, well, I think it's closing some already. I didn't see the original release on the beer
mhm,
store, closing
mhm,
locations, but they're
mhm,
gonna be closing 9, more. It says locations in Ontario, and there's gonna be another one that I'll mention later.
mhm,
Um, but the locations include Toronto, Markham, and Ottawa.
mhm,
So basically, the beer store has announced another 9 Ontario locations are closing as of July 20th, including stores in the Greater Toronto Area and in Ottawa. The latest announcement brings the total number of beer stores closing its locations to 53. So this has been going on since May of 2024. I
mhm.
had no clue this was going on. This one clearly missed. But yeah, it's up to 53 stores.
53 stores.
Mhm.
How many stores are like, ca well, not Canada-wide, but nationwide?
Um, well, that is considered Canada-wide, but yes, nationwide.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
what it
know.
said.
That's a little bit above my pay grade. I don't know
Mm,
how many there are. Um, but the fact that there's 53 of them going just in Ontario alone. So take that into consideration. That's 53. Well, I think it actually says location number. This announcement brings the total number of beer stores 53. So it doesn't actually say whether it's in Ontario or not. That number, that's 53. I don't know if it's just in Ontario, but the fact that it's 53 at this point, that's a lot.
mhm,
Um, so I don't know. I mean, like, even just in my small town,
mhm,
there's 2 beer stores. So I don't know
mm,
what how many there are,
mm,
but the union has blamed the closures on the province's decision to allow beer and ready-to-drink alcohol sales at gas stations, corner stores, grocery stores, and big box retailers, which we have talked about that. Um,
so there's over 420 retail stores,
that's a
10
lot.
distribution centers, and 8 across the DACA location since 2017 in Ontario, but there's actually 440, according to Google, retail stores within Ontario, Canada, including locations with the government, owned by LCBO stores, retail partnerships, and grocery stores.
Yeah,
Right.
there we go.
So,
So
right.
John Knock, who's the president of United Food and Commercial Workers Local 12R24, anyways, the union that represents the beer store workers said in addition to price stability, the beer store offers convenient container return options for consumers that will be harder to access once more stores
Mhm,
close.
mhm,
So that's the thing. I remember. I mean, I don't know what people do these days, but I remember back in the day, my grandpa would do that. He would, take the bottles and whatever, and then take it to the beer store to get plenty for them.
mhm,
You can't really do that with LCBO. I don't think you could do that at all with LCBO to come to think of it. But like that's what you would do. If
mhm,
that is no longer an option for people,
mhm.
that can be, a little difficult. But anyways,
Yeah.
um, where will people return their MTs? Knox said in an email. Further and further drives. Knox said affected employees will have options to transfer to other locations. However, that option will soon be eliminated as soon as closures happen. So the
Mm,
locations that are closing as of July 20th. So in the May 20th statement, the beer store confirmed the following locations are closing at the end of the business day on July 20th.
mm-hmm.
So Ajax and 1953 Ravenscroft Road. So that makes me think we actually have three locations because I did not know there was one on Ravenscroft, but I guess there may be three. So there you go. That's one.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Azilda, which
mm-hmm.
is located at 93 Notre Dame Street West.
Mm-hmm.
Lavac, which is located at 3rd Avenue and Main Street. Markham, which is located at 5804 Highway 7 in Markham.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Milton, 51 Millside Drive. Another one at 1015 Bronte Street South. Ottawa, 900 Bank Street. East York, 89 Laird Drive, Unit 1. And then in Toronto is 41 Mill Street. So in a statement, the beer store's vice president of retail, Ozzy Almond, said the retailer will continue its focus on sustainability and recycling as it modernizes operations in a changing marketplace. So,
Hmm.
the beer store collects more than 1.6 billion alcohol containers annually at stores and empty return dealers.
Mm,
Beer, wine, and spirit bottles, aluminum cans, plastic bottles, Tetra Paks, and kegs can be returned to the beer store for deposit refunds. But these return options will become scarcer in communities impacted by beer store closures. All grocery stores that sell alcohol will be required to return empties starting January 1st of 2026. The
mhm,
beer store noted in a release. To help ensure that customers can still purchase beer and return empties, the beer store said it encourages customers to use its other retail locations. Um, Owned by Ontario-based brewers, the beer store is the province's largest beer retailer. It
mhm.
distributed 2.92 million hectoliters of beer to more than 13,000 customers in 2024. That's a lot, I'm assuming.
Wow.
Um, so just to kind of end off the beer store conversation, because I think I had another article here.
Mhm.
Um, oh yes, here it is. So yeah, I think this is the same one. So yeah, that's the same location because I did see the one. We did talk about the one at Ajax. So yeah, that's basically it for the beer store. So I
Wait,
imagine that's going to continue as the years go by with
I
the
wonder why what is there a reason why they're closing it?
yeah,
Or is it
yeah,
they're
it's
not
mentioned
doing
in the
too
article.
right?
It's because of the changes within the province, right, that you can access beer and other alcohol at convenience stores, gas stations, and big box stores and grocery stores. So that's why.
Mm. Oh, they're struggling then
Yeah,
to to make
because
sales.
the ease of it is if you're already you're already
And
at
so there's no
the
yeah, there's no need okay.
their
There's no
only
need for
competition prior to that was LCBO.
right, right. And
So
plus I looked in like a lot of research that Gen Z is the most least generation to drink alcohol as well.
yeah,
So
yeah, I'm
that's
noticing that too.
yeah, so that's another factor as well. So like and then you got LCBO as well too, so that's got like probably better in my opinion, better options. So
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like me, I tend to strictly, I guess, shop at LCBO
mhm,
just because my boss gives me gift cards for LCBO. So
mhm,
clearly
mhm.
that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody give a gift card to the beer store to the beer store.
I mean, I
Like
guess
I
you
have never
can. They're
you
available.
can, but I just
But
never
yeah.
seen it. It's just seen
No,
that route.
because I feel like if you're gonna give a gift card for alcohol,
Hmm.
LCBO is the most sense
Mm-hmm.
because you not only have access to beer, but you
Mm-hmm.
also have access to wine,
Mm-hmm.
spirits.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like you have a wide range of things.
Yep.
Because then I go to LCBO, I'm not just getting beer, I am getting wine, I am
Mm-hmm.
getting spirits.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a better option than just going to the beer store where you can only
Mm-hmm.
get beer, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, but again, I would see my grandparents not only go to LCBO when I was a kid, but they would also go to the beer store. The only beer store that was in Ajax at the time. Um, but yeah, they would go to, I mean, it's still going. I wonder if that's gonna close down eventually. But anyways, um,
Mm-hmm.
it's the original one to this to the town, but that's the one that they would always go to as well. Like I've definitely stepped into a beer store.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have I stepped into a beer store as an adult? No. But
Mm-hmm.
um as a kid, yes, with an adult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, so that's basically
It's,
that. And I
yeah.
imagine it's gonna not get any better.
Yeah, it's not gonna get any
Um
better now. Yeah,
no,
things are
not for the
changing.
beer store,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I think LCBO still has a leg up, as
And
mentioned, with the options that
mm-hmm.
they have.
Plus, it's owned by the government.
Well, the beer store is a union as well, which I
Is
didn't
it union
actually
too? Oh,
it's
okay. I
unionized. I
got it.
didn't know that.
I
But
didn't. Yeah, I
according
didn't.
to this article we just read, yeah, it's unionized.
Mm,
So they're also, you know, but I think just because it just doesn't have the option in
mm-hmm.
the same way as LCBO does.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised in time LCBO will feel that too,
Mm-hmm.
but I just don't think it's going to happen as quickly. Yo, not not when I see the lineups the way they are during New Year's Eve. Come on. It's still gonna be okay for now.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I do
Mhm.
suspect the beer store is gonna not gonna last for very
Yeah,
much longer.
yeah. Well,
Okay. So let's shift gears here. And just trigger warning, this is, having to do with fertility clinics, um, or fertility clinic in this particular sense. But the Palm Springs fertility clinic bombing that happened apparently cut off critical power to incubating embryos. So just in case, like we're gonna talk about what happened here and then talk about that. So,
mhm,
um, Christy Holstage, who is the former mayor of Palm Springs, who is 18 weeks pregnant, was playing with her preschooler in their living room when a blast reverberated through her neighborhood and a plum of smoke began to grow on the
mhm,
horizon.
mhm,
It didn't take long for word to reach her that the building ablaze was the local fertility clinic. Panic gripped Holstage as she thought of her last remaining embryo stored inside the clinic, and her concern deepened as she considered the safety of the staff that had
mhm,
carried her family through the last 5 years of in vitro fertilization treatment, first with her son and again this year. Through a fortuitous turn of events, the usually bustling American reproductive center was completely empty when a car exploded outside the clinic, blowing a gaping hole in the side of the building and severing the power supply
oh,
of
wow.
the lab where thousands of embryos and other specimens are stored. For miles
Mm,
around the blaze zone, Coachella Valley families held babies and toddlers conceived at ARC. Alongside hopeful would-be parents, they worried for the immediate fate of the remaining embryos in the clinic and for the long-term safety of the reproductive center, which authorities believe was targeted in an act of domestic terrorism.
mhm,
Mother Sophie and Simone Bain Toll were hosting a party full of fellow parents when they heard news of the attack. The room grew somber as they surrounded a playmat full of wriggling babies, two of them conceived by IVF, and realized every person in the room either had embryos stored at ARC or knew someone who does. Though the frozen embryos at the clinic would remain cold without electricity, a set of embryos being incubated would be irreversibly damaged if power was not restored within hours.
mhm.
But at the scene of the explosion, a firefighter began to hatch a risky plan to protect future families, including that of a fellow first responder. So, firefighters initially rushed to tamp down the blaze caused by the explosion and ensure no victims were inside. But the crumbling building soon began to shift, and bomb squad technicians became concerned about a possible secondary device, which definitely can happen, that could put first responders at risk. When Deputy Fire Chief Greg Lyle arrived an hour after the blaze, first responders had been ordered to get out of the still smoking building until a bomb squad could assess the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Clinic director Dr. Mayor Abudallah, I think is how I say his name, who was able to access clinic security cameras before the power went out, reported that the embryo lab appeared intact, but Lyle was not convinced. Itching to help, he said the other firefighters began considering how they could ensure the embryo incubators and cryogenic tanks were secure. So I went over to the lead FBI investigator and kind of pitched a crazy scheme to him, fully expecting him to say no, Lyle said. The scheme, Lyle would venture alone into the still standing part of the building, which contained unknown risk of structural collapse, a secondary explosion, or additional fires, to find the lab and assess the status of the embryos. Y'all, this sounds like an episode of 911.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. Um, this is a crazy plan, and if anybody's going to get hurt, the only thing that I would be able to be comfortable with is that it would be me. This sounds like Captain Nash. Oh, okay. I just had a gut feeling it had to be me. The FBI
Mm-hmm.
agent, identified by the city police chief as Agent Chris Meltzer, embraced the plan under one condition. Meltzer would accompany Lyle, so it's not just going to be him.
Mm-hmm.
Together, the pair headed into the building, cautiously navigating blown out door frames, crumbling drywall, and several inches of standing water, likely from a water main break or fire sprinklers. They eventually spotted a room stacked with what appeared to be cryogenic tanks. We thought initially that maybe we could go in and just grab it and go, but it was obvious there was too much equipment, too big, too bulky, too heavy. So we were determined the only thing we could do would be restore power to the stuff. Quickly, they realized the backup generators had failed, and it became increasingly clear they alone would not be able to restore the electricity. The pair picked their way back out of the building to assemble a team of firefighters, police, and bomb squad personnel to address the outage. It took them a while, but they were successful. The
Mm-hmm.
team's heroic initiative likely saved the incubating embryos. Abdallah said an hour or two longer without power could have had a tragic consequence. Unbeknownst to Lyle, the ARC lab houses embryos belonging to the wife of one of his own firefighters, who sent Lyle a message thanking him for preserving his family's future. It kind of hit home there. I didn't even know. The firefighter's wife is among the patients with appointments early that week or whatever week this was. So, yet in order to continue ongoing treatment, her patients, it would take a second team effort to keep the delicate process moving forward. So, yeah, I mean, we'll kind of stop it there. But yeah, they were able to get that done and get that figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, if they are kind of thinking this was, I'm kind of just going through the article here, but if
Mm-hmm.
they're thinking that this was an act of terrorism, I
Mm-hmm.
hope they find the people who did this because, like,
Mm,
this could have gone really bad really
yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
So,
I, I agree with you.
yeah. Um, and talk about an act of, well, not necessarily terrorism in this case, but
Mm-hmm.
an act of hate for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Two Israeli embassy staffers were killed in a shooting outside Jewish Museum in Washington. This
Mm-hmm.
was as of May 22nd, so not too long ago. So, two Israeli embassy staffers were shot and killed on May 22nd or around there, May 21st maybe, outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. The male victim was identified as Yaron Liskachil. Hold on. Lischinski. There we go. His final post on social media was a repost of a message condemning the United Nations' false claim that 14,000 infants in Gaza were facing imminent starvation, labeling it a modern-day blood libel. Um, According to Israeli ambassador to Berlin, Ron Prosser, who taught him as a master's student, Liszczynski was a German-born Christian Zionist who has served in the Israel Defense Forces and chose to dedicate his life in the state of Israel in the Zionist cause. The female victim
Mhm.
was Sarah Milgram. She spent 5 weeks in Israel researching the role of friendships in peace building for her final master's project, according to a LinkedIn post she shared 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Milgram's work built on a stint with Tech 2 Peace the previous summer, where she developed a passion for capturing the stories of Jewish and Arab participants. Israeli ambassador to the U.S., okay, Yichil Latir, I believe,
I
sorry.
see it.
Don't worry about it.
Mhm.
Well, I think, I'm sorry, but it revealed that the victims were a couple who were about to be engaged. Liszczynski had recently purchased an engagement ring and planned to propose next week in Jerusalem. So sad.
Mhm.
Um, Yaron and Sarah were sorry, hold on. Okay. Yaron and Sarah were our friends and colleagues. They were in the prime of their lives, the Israeli embassy wrote on Twitter, not X.
Mhm.
The entire embassy staff is heartbroken and devastated by their murder. No words can express the depth of our grief and horror at the devastating loss. Our hearts are with their families, and the embassy will be by their side during this terrible time.
Mhm.
U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem said that authorities were actively investigating and working to get more information to share. We'll bring this depraved perpetrator to justice. The shooting occurred around 9:15 p.m. near the intersection of 3rd and F Streets, I guess Northwest NW. Okay,
Mhm.
in front of the museum and just behind the FBI's Washington field office and the U.S. Attorney's office. So bold. This person was Israeli embassy spokesperson Tal Nam Cohen wrote on Twitter that the victims had been shot at close range. We have full faith in law enforcement authorities on both the local and federal levels to apprehend the shooter and protect Israel's representatives and Jewish communities throughout the United States. Police are questioning a 30-year-old man from Chicago who is believed to have acted alone. Following the shooting, he entered the museum where he was detained. DC Police Chief Pamela Smith said Wednesday night or that day that the suspect chanted "Free, Free Palestine"
Mhm.
as he was taken into custody. Okay.
Mhm.
Ted Dutch, CEO of the American Jewish Committee, told ABC News that his organization was hosting an event at the museum that evening. We are devastated that an unspeakable act of violence took place outside the venue at this moment, as we await more information about from the police about exactly what transpired. Our attention and our hearts are solely with those who were harmed and their families. Danny Danon, Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, condemned the incident as a depraved act of anti-Semitic terrorism.
Mhm.
I would agree. Harming the Jewish community is crossing a red line. We are confident that U.S. authorities will take strong action against those responsible for this criminal act. Israel will continue to act res- resolutely to protect its citizens and representatives everywhere in the world.
Mhm.
U.S. President Donald Trump extended condolences to the victims, saying, quote, "These horrible DC killings based obviously on anti-Semitism
So, yeah.
must end now," in all
Mhm.
in caps, y'all. He wrote on Truth Social,
Mhm.
hatred and, oh my God, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't have anything wrong with what he's saying in this sense, but
Mhm.
listen. Hatred
Mhm.
and radicalism have no place in the USA.
Mhm.
Condolences to the families of the victims. So sad that such things as this can happen. God bless you all is also in caps.
Mm,
Again, I don't have anything bad to say about what he's saying because it's all very true.
hmm.
But it's just, you know,
Just coming from him.
it's coming from him, exactly.
Hmm.
So um so yeah, I mean there's just a little bit more kind of about that, but um here's what I'll say this last part though. I think it's kind of pertinent to what this is kind of going on here. America and Israel will stand united in defense of our people and our shared values. Terror and hate will not break us. So I know
Mm,
clearly this seems to be um, in direct response of what's kind of going on in Israel with the war currently. And I understand all of that, but these are two people who maybe do not have a leg in that race. They're innocent people, and this this didn't need to happen,
hmm.
like at all. Like so. Anyway,
Mm. Yep, I
that's
agree.
yeah, that's
That's it.
that. That's it for that. Then on to another one. Since we're on the topic of Trump,
Hmm.
let's talk about something he's doing.
With
Um,
another person or
no, this is
oh, okay.
something else that he's doing.
Yeah,
Um, okay, y'all ready for this? Okay.
yeah. Uh-huh.
So the Trump administration revoked Harvard University's ability to enroll international students in its escalating battle with the Ivy League school, saying
Hmm.
thousands of current students must transfer to other schools or leave the country. So he is banning international students to attend Harvard University in an effort to make America great again, I guess. I don't know.
So he's banning.
He's banning international students. I don't know if it's all Ivy League schools or if it's
Hmm.
just Harvard,
Hmm.
but yes. Can you believe that? This is incredible.
Yeah.
The Department of Homeland Security announced the action, saying Harvard has created an unsafe, oh my God, an unsafe campus environment by allowing, quote, anti-American, pro-terrorist agitators to assault Jewish students on campus.
Hmm.
They're all international. I'm sure it's not all international students that are doing that. I'm sure there's some home homeland people. That's the right term I want to use. American people who
Yes.
are also doing that. Come on now.
Yeah, I
But
agree. Yeah,
okay,
yeah. There's some American people who are doing that.
of
Like, like
course.
I heard something like this. Like because like Harvard used to be like the school that people used to want to go to like the number one school.
No,
Remember
of
back in
course,
the
yeah.
90s?
Oh, not even
Like
just the 90s, even the
yeah,
early
yeah,
2000s. Yeah.
yeah, early 2000s.
Harvard's the
That
place to
was
go.
heavy. Yeah, Harvard was like the one. Like it was
Yeah.
heavily referenced in movies,
Well, yeah, if you think
Hollywood.
about like
It's
Legally Blonde, for example, that was like a huge movie at the time, and it's
mm-hmm,
like you have this quote unquote dumb blonde going to Harvard University to become a lawyer,
mm-hmm,
and you have
mm-hmm.
like what, like it's hard, like seriously,
Yeah,
so
yeah. It
yeah.
would. Yeah, it was the school to go to
Mhm.
back then.
It
Now it's
was
just
the Ivy League school.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
Now
and Yale, but
yeah,
Harvard more so.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was like one and two.
yeah.
Nowadays, nobody cares about going to Harvard. Nobody cares about going. It's not the number one school. People have different options now on which school and what direction that they want to go to in life now.
Well,
Now,
not
yeah.
even just
Go ahead.
that, but like there, you can still get a good education
Hmm.
at other schools that
Hmm.
is not necessarily considered an Ivy League school or
Hmm.
isn't Harvard. Because I think even Harvard, out of the Ivy League schools, is even harder to get into
Yeah.
than it is maybe the others. So, yeah, like, I think it gets to the point where it's like, oh, like you think you're too good for me to go to your school. Okay, well, then I'm going to go to somewhere else that's, you know, not Ivy League, but it's still good, you know?
Hmm.
Like I can't even think of a school that's not considered Ivy League right now, but yeah, it's just like there's so many places that you can go to, like it doesn't have to be Harvard.
Hmm.
But for those international students that are getting into Harvard, because yes, it is a good school,
Hmm.
you know. It's like it's not so much that I can't go because I'm choosing not to go. You're telling me, government, that I can't attend this school because I am not American.
Yeah.
That's the difference in this case. Um, so yeah, like, that part I just don't understand. But um, it also accused Harvard of coordinating with the Chinese Communist Party, saying it hosted and trained members of a Chinese paramilitary group as recently as 2024. Quote, this means Harvard can no longer enroll foreign students, and existing foreign students must transfer or lose their legal status. So even the
Hmm.
current ones that are currently there, it's not like, okay, as of now, you can't enroll international students anymore. It's even the ones that are currently there who
Hmm.
could be on their last year potentially. And
Hmm.
now this is happening.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
Harvard enrolls almost 6,800 foreign students at its campus in Cambridge, Massachusetts, accounting for more than a quarter of its student body. Most are graduate students coming from more than 100 countries. Harvard called the action unlawful and said
Hmm.
it's working to provide guidance to students. This retaliatory action threatens serious harm to the Harvard community and our country and undermines Harvard's academic and research mission, the university said in a statement. The dispute stems from an April 16th request from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who we just spoke about in a second ago. The letter
Hmm.
demanded that Harvard turn over information about foreign students that might implicate them in violence or protests that could otherwise lead to their deportation.
Hmm.
In a letter to Harvard, Noam said the school's sanction is the unfortunate result of Harvard's failure to comply with simple reporting requirements. It bars Harvard from hosting international students for the upcoming 2025 to 2026 school year. Noam said Harvard can regain its ability to host foreign students if it produces a trove of records on foreign students within 72 hours.
Wow.
How in the do you think that's going to happen with 68 students that are foreign
Hmm.
or international students? I should just say that.
That's crazy.
How I couldn't do that if it was like any other situation
That
and half of the freaking paperwork in 72 hours.
that has to be illegal.
I guess it's not. I guess Homeland Security can do whatever the hell they want and give you whatever deadline they want to. And then want to be like, oh, well, you didn't comply, so we're going to do this to you now. It's like, you.
Hmm.
Like, really? And then you're going to threaten them? It's not even that much about Harvard. You're messing with people's livelihoods and education.
Yeah.
Harvard here for a second. Let's just think about the students you're.
Hmm.
I just, okay. Um, like, I really want to know how does people sleep at night? Do you sleep comfortably? Do you like just dream about, I don't know, rainbows and butterflies while you're ruining people's lives? Seriously. Um,
I will.
Her updated request demands all records, including audio or video footage of foreign students participating in protests or dangerous activity on campus. This administration is holding Harvard accountable for fostering violence, anti Semitism, and coordinating with the Chinese Communist Party on its campus. That was said by Noam. The administration revoked Harvard's certification in the Student in Exchange Visitor Program, which gives the school the ability to sponsor international students to get their visas and attend school in the United States. No
Mm.
sanction opens a new front in the Trump administration's battle with Harvard, the nation's oldest and wealthiest university. Harvard was the first to openly defy White House demands to limit pro-Palestinian protests and eliminate diversity, equity, equity and inclusion policies. The federal government has responded by cutting $2.6 billion in federal grants at Harvard, forcing it to self-fund much of its sprawling research operation. President Donald Trump has said he wants to strip the university of its tax-exempt status.
Mm.
Make America great again, my ass. Harvard is a freaking staple, but let's make America great again. Well, with the
Yeah,
oldest
well,
school.
they want to make Harvard number one again. Like
No, it doesn't
let's,
seem that way from where I'm standing. I don't know.
that's how that's how he feels that that
Ugh,
Harvard will be number one back again.
whatever. Many of Harvard's punishments have come through a federal anti-Semitism task force.
Mhm.
Didn't know that existed. It's good that it exists, but like make sure it exists in the right way. Anyway, this says the university failed to protect Jewish students from harassment and violence in a nationwide wave of pro-Palestinian protests. Homeland Security officials echoed those concerns in its announcement. It offered examples, including a recent international report at Harvard finding that many Jewish students reported facing discrimination or bias on campus.
Mhm.
It also tapped into concerns that congressional Republicans have raised about ties between U.S. universities and China. Homeland Security officials said Harvard provided training to the oh boy, Zhenjiang Production and Construction Corps as recently as 2024. As evidence, it provided a link to a Fox News article, which in turn cited a letter from House Republicans. Ted Mitchell, president of the American Council on Education, called the latest action an, quote, illegal, small-minded overreach. Mic drop. I worry that this is sending a very chilling effect to international students looking to come to America for education. The Trump administration has leveraged the system for tracking international students' legal status as part of its broader attempts to crack down on higher education. What was once a largely administrative database has become a tool of enforcement as immigration officials revoked students' legal status directly in the system. Those efforts were challenged in court, leading to restorations of status and a nationwide injunction blocking the administration from pursuing further terminations.
Mhm.
So, like, for me, I feel like all this is going to do, like they kind of said, is that this is going to make matters worse in the grand scheme of things with other universities or colleges where you're going to have international students because they're going to see what's happening with Harvard and be like, okay, what's going to stop the Trump administration from coming after other Ivy League schools, just other schools in general, to crack down and hide behind the anti Semitism of it all? Which, listen, I'm not against that. I don't think that's inaccurate. I'm sure that there are people, but not just international students, that are targeting Jewish people. I don't think that's incorrect, but I do think the Trump administration is hiding behind it in
Mhm.
order to stop international students from attending their Ivy League schools.
Mm.
That is what I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
100%.
So I'm coming in with another one. This one, um, there is a trigger warning for suicide. We're also going to be talking about sexual violence. So just if you need to skip this and go back to another one, please do so. So the woman who accused Britain's Prince Andrew and other influential men of sexually exploiting her as a teenager, trafficked by a disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein, has died. She was 41 years old. So Virginia, I think it's Griffey, died by suicide very recently, just probably a few weeks ago from the time this is coming out. At her farm in Western Australia, her publicist confirmed, quote, deeply loving, wise, and funny, she was a beacon to other survivors and victims, publicist Deanie von Muffling said in a statement. She adored her children and many animals. She was always more concerned with me than herself. I will miss her beyond words. It was the privilege of a lifetime to represent her. The American-born Virginia, who lived in Australia for years, became an advocate for sex trafficking survivors after emerging as a central figure in Epstein's prolonged downfall. So, in case you don't know, if you're not really part of the true crime universe, you don't have a lot of knowledge on Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and everything that kind of happened there. We'll just kind of go into a little bit of a background as to what she endured. So, Epstein, the wealthy, well-connected New York money manager, died by suicide, as we know, in August of 2019 in a New York jail while awaiting trial on U.S. federal sex trafficking charges involving dozens of teenage girls and young women, some as young as 14. The charges came 14 years after police in Palm Beach, Florida, first began investigating allegations that he sexually abused underage girls who were hired to give him massages. Ugh. Virginia came forward publicly after the initial investigation ended in an 18-month Florida jail term for Epstein, who made a secret deal to avoid federal prosecution by pleading guilty instead to relatively minor state-level charges of soliciting prostitution. And he was released in 2009, so that's all in connection to what was going on in Florida. In subsequent lawsuits, Virginia said she was a teenage spa attendant at Mar-a-Lago, U.S. President Donald Trump's Palm Beach club. We remember that connection. If you don't, again, haven't much knowledge of that, there is visual proof that Trump and Epstein knew each other, at the very least. When she was approached in 2000 by Epstein's girlfriend and later employee, Ghislaine Maxwell. Virginia said Maxwell hired her as a masseuse for Epstein, but the couple effectively made her a sexual servant, pressuring her into gratifying not only Epstein, but his friends and associates. Virginia said she was flown around the world for assignations with men, including Prince Andrew when she was 17 and 18. The men denied it and assailed Virginia's credibility. She acknowledged changing some key details of her account, including the age of which she first met Epstein, but many parts of her story were supported by documents, witness testimony, and photos, including one of her and Andrew with his arm around her bare midriff in Ghislaine's Maxwell's London townhouse, which she is also in that picture. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure you can find it on Google, but it is literally Virginia, Prince Andrew, and Ghislaine Maxwell. Virginia said in one of her lawsuits that she had sex with the royal 3 times in London during her 2001 trip, at Epstein's New York mansion when she was 17, and in the Virginia Islands when she was 18. So Andrew categorically rejected Virginia's allegations, although there is visual proof you at least knew her, but that's neither here nor there, I guess, and said that he didn't recall having met her. Sir. Okay. His denials blew up in his face during a November 2019 BBC interview. I'm sure we've all seen the pictures at the very least. It's a slap in the face to hear him talk, let's call it what it is, and to see that his ass gets handed to him. It's amazing. Viewers saw a prince who profed, I think is the right word to use, curious rebuttals, such as disputing Virginia's recollection of sweaty dancing by saying he was medically incapable of perspiring. Okay. And showed no empathy for the women who said Epstein abused them. Within days of the interview, Andrew stepped down from his royal duties. He settled with Virginia in 2022 for an undisclosed sum, agreeing to make a substantial donation to her survivors' organization. A statement filed in court said that the prince acknowledged Epstein was a sex trafficker and Virginia an established victim of abuse. It's the least you could do. She also filed and in at least some cases settled lawsuits against Epstein and others connected to him. In one case, she dropped her claims against a prominent U.S. attorney, saying she might have erred in identifying him as one of the men to whom Epstein supplied her. Epstein's death put an end to his accusers' hopes of holding him criminally accountable. Maxwell was convicted in 2021 on federal sex trafficking and conspiracy charges and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Bye, bitch. She said she wasn't to blame for Epstein's abuse. Fuck you. Okay. Prosecutors elected not to include Virginia's allegations in the Maxwell case, but Virginia later told the court that the British socialite had opened the door to hell. Virginia, born Virginia Roberts, told interviewers that her childhood was shattered when she was sexually abused as a grade schooler by a man her family knew. She later ran away from home and endured more abuse. She said she met her now husband in 2002 while taking massage training in Thailand at Epstein's behest. She married, moved to Australia, and had a family. Last month, Virginia's publicist said she had been hospitalized for a serious accident. She didn't answer questions about the date, location, nature, or other details of the accident, or about the accuracy of any Instagram posts that appeared to come from Virginia on Sunday, or whatever Sunday this was, saying she had been in a car that was hit by a school bus and that her prognosis was dire. The Associated Press does not identify people who say they were victims of sexual assault unless they have come forward publicly, as Virginia did. But yeah, as a person who has watched the documentaries, and again, if you want more information, if you haven't seen much or you haven't really, you know about it, but you don't know a lot about what happened, there are documentaries, at least on Netflix. There was one particularly about Jeffrey Epstein and kind of where he came from and how we got here. And then there was one about Ghislaine Maxwell as well and kind of where she came from and how we got here. Both really good. But Virginia was pretty prominent, I believe, in both of them. And she is kind of that face to the other victims. And this was really sad to see. And yeah, it's very sad that you know, it's God, it's hard to put this into words, but it's just yet another victim, not being another person being victimized by a person who, first of all, A, is no longer around, and he's getting his comeuppance in hell. Um, but it just kind of goes to show that there's just no end really to it. Um, I just hope wherever she is, she's at peace. Um, and shame on everyone who really and truly is responsible for where her death. Even if she did it out of her own hands, there are people who are at least somewhat responsible for her death. But that's that. Another piece that we are going to talk more about actually during our next episode. Mikel does kind of bring it up in that episode, so we do talk about it here. So I'll talk about this one on my own, and you can hear more about both how we kind of both think about it in the next episode, which should be released tomorrow. So U.S. President Donald Trump very recently said he believes a great relationship with Canada will be possible under Prime Minister Mark Carney, who is now tasked with seeking a new economic and security agreement with the United States. Carney's Liberals won a minority government in the federal election, which was dominated by Trump's threats on Canada's economy and sovereignty. The Liberals were overwhelmingly viewed in polling as the party best equipped to deal with Trump, and Carney has stressed the need to respond to the American betrayal of Canada. Trump, speaking to reporters during a cabinet meeting at the White House, appeared unbothered by Carney's public comments and said he congratulated the new prime minister in a phone call the next day, saying, quote, "I think we're going to have a great relationship. He called me up yesterday. God damn it. And said, let's make a deal. He couldn't have been nicer. Unlike you." Oompa loompa. The prime minister's office said, this would have been last week, or 2 weeks ago, probably by the time this comes out, that Carney and Trump agreed on the importance of Canada and the United States working together as independent, sovereign nations for their mutual betterment, and agreed to meet in person in the near future, which they have done, so that will be discussed in tomorrow's episode. Trump said he expects Carney to come to the White House for that meeting very shortly, within the week, or for the next week or less. Global News has asked the Prime Minister's office to confirm if such a trip for Carney has been scheduled, which we do know it has. Carter told the BBC in an interview that aired 2 weeks ago that when he travels to Washington, it won't be as a tourist. I'll go when there is serious discussion to be had. We deserve respect. We expect respect, and I'm sure we'll get it in due course again, and then we can have these discussions. Carney said as much after speaking with Trump last month in the early days of the election campaign. He later revealed Trump repeated on that call his belief that Canada should be an American state, after saying the U.S. president respected Canada's sovereignty. Trump said Wednesday that the close result of Monday's election, with the Liberals just shy of a majority, the Conservatives forming the largest official opposition in the history of the House of Commons, and the two parties less than 2.5 points apart in the popular vote, was complicated for the country. He also said that despite Carney's focus during the campaign and in his victory speech on the threat posed by Trump, that the Liberal leader did not hate Trump as much as Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. So I actually would have to agree. Quote, he was running for office, Trump said. Speaking of Carney, they both hated Trump, and it was the one that hated Trump, I think, the least, that one. I actually think the conservative hated me much more than the so-called liberal. What does that even mean, so-called liberal? Poilievre focused his own campaign on domestic issues like crime, housing, and affordability, but pushed a Canada First agenda to combat Trump's escalating tariffs, echoing the Republican president's own protectionist policies. The Conservative leader, like Carney, regularly admonished Trump for suggesting Canada should become the 51st American state, including on the morning of the election. Carney said in his victory speech early Tuesday morning that he expects to discuss new agreements with Trump face-to-face as prime minister. Quote, we are over the shock of the American betrayal, but we should never forget the lessons, Carney told his supporters in Ottawa. We have to look out for ourselves, and above all, we have to take care of each other. When I sit down with President Trump, it will be to discuss the future economic and security relationship between two sovereign nations. And it will be with our full knowledge that we have many, many other options than the United States to build prosperity for all Canadians. Trump's treatment of Carney so far has been in stark contrast to Trump's repeated insults against former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who he called governor of a hypothetical U.S. state. Wow. The U.S. State Department on Tuesday touted the extensive relationship with Canada and said the Trump administration looked forward to working with the new government on cross-border issues like trade fairness, combating illegal immigration, halting the flow of fentanyl and other dangerous drugs, and countering the Chinese Communist Party's influence in our hemisphere. Yet, multiple White House spokespeople also reiterated Trump's desire to make Canada part of the U.S. was unchanged regardless of the election results. It doesn't even matter what you think. Anyways, exit polls conducted by IPUS for Global News suggested the Liberals won re-election in large part due to older Canadians aged 55 and over who identified Canada-U.S. relations as the top issue driving their vote. Conversely, younger Canadians aged 18 to 35 flocked to the Conservatives. That's incorrect. Not this one, anyways. Over affordability concerns, which the party was narrowly seen as best to address that issue. Next, so this is again for my true crime people. So, the woman who held Elizabeth Smart captive for months alongside her disgusting husband was arrested after visiting a park. Now, I know that's like, so what? Well, here's why. So the woman who kidnapped and held Elizabeth Smart captive for 9 months in the early 2000s was arrested in Utah this week after visiting at least 2 parks, which you can't do because of her status as a sex offender. You stupid, stupid, stupid woman. Wanda Barzee, 79 now, was arrested at her Salt Lake City home Thursday and was booked on one count of violating her status as a sex offender in Utah. A spokesperson for the Salt Lake City Police Department said, um, Utah law prohibits registered sex offenders from entering protected areas, including public parks, where there could be children. Detectives with the Salt Lake Police Department received information that Brzee had allegedly visited at least two parks in the city, Liberty Park and Sugar House Park, in April, police spokesperson Brent Weisberg said. Records from the Salt Lake City County Metro Jail indicate Barzee is no longer in custody. It was not immediately clear if she was released on bail or if she has legal representation. Weisberg said in a statement that court records show she was released on judicial orders. So, in case you do not know the history of Elizabeth Smart, if you're not a true crime person who listens or watches true crime, Brzee was convicted of state and federal crimes and in 2010 was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for her role in the abduction. She was released from prison in 2018. Brzee's husband, Brian David Mitchell, again, 3 names, is serving a life sentence for Smart's kidnapping and assaults by asshole. Smart was taken at knife point from her Salt Lake City bedroom in 2002. The teen's kidnapping and disappearance garnered media attention and headlines across the globe. 9 months after she was abducted, Smart was seen walking the streets of Salt Lake City suburb with Mitchell. She has said her time in captivity included repeated sexual assaults by Mitchell. When Brzee was released from prison, Smart said that during her time in captivity, the woman would encourage her husband to continue to rape me. That is a quote. Smart, who is now 37, has since become an outspoken advocate against child abduction and sexual violence. So next one that we have, another Trump one here, guys. So President Donald Trump says he is directing his government to reopen and expand Alcatraz, the notorious former prison on a hard-to-reach California island that has since been closed for more than 60 years. In a post on his Truth Social site Sunday evening, Trump wrote that, quote, For too long, America has been plagued by vicious, violent, and repeat criminal offenders, the dregs of society who will never contribute anything other than misery and suffering, capitalized, by the way. When we were a more serious nation in times past, we did not hesitate to lock up the most dangerous criminals and keep them far away from anyone they could harm. That's the way it's supposed to be. That is why, today, I am directing the Bureau of Prisons together with the Department of Justice, FBI, and Homeland Security, just reeling in everybody, to reopen a substantially enlarged and rebuilt Alcatraz, all in capital letters, to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders, he wrote, adding, the reopening of Alcatraz, again all in caps, will serve as a symbol of law, order, and justice, in caps. The prison, infamously inescapable due to the strong ocean currents and cold Pacific waters that surround it, was known as the Rock and housed some of the nation's most notorious criminals, including gangster Al Capone and George Machine Gun Kelly. It has long been part of the cultural imagination and has been the subject of numerous movies, including The Rock, starring Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage. Still, in the 29 years it was open, 36 men attempted 14 separate escapes. According to the FBI, nearly all were caught or didn't survive the attempt. The fate of 3 particular inmates, John Anglin, his brother Clarence, and Frank Morris, is of some debate and was dramatized into the 1979 film Escape from Alcatraz, starring Clint Eastwood. Alcatraz Island is now a major tourist site that is operate by the National Parks Service and is a designated National Historic Landmark. The closure of the federal prison in 1963 was attributed to crumbling infrastructure and the high cost of repairing and supplying the island facility because everything from fuel to food had to be brought by boat. A spokesperson for the Bureau of Prisons said in a statement that the agency, quote, will comply with all presidential orders. The spokesperson did not immediately answer questions from the Associated Press regarding the practicality and feasibility of reopening Alcatraz or the agency's role in the future of the former prison, given the National Park Service's control of the island. The island serves as a veritable time machine to a bygone era. I'm fine. Of corrections. The Bureau of Prisons currently has 16 penitentiaries performing the same high security functions as Alcatraz, including its maximum security facility in Florence, Colorado, and the U.S. Penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana, which is home to the federal death chamber. Didn't know there's still a death chamber. The order comes as Trump has been clashing with the courts as he tries to send accused gang members to a notorious prison in El Salvador without due process, which we did talk about in a separate part. Trump has also directed the opening of a detention center at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, to hold up to 30,000 of which he has labeled the worst criminal aliens. The Bureau of Prisons has faced myriad crises in recent years and has been subjected to increased scrutiny after Jeffrey Epstein's suicide at a federal jail in New York City in 2019, which we just talked about. An AP investigation uncovered deep, previously unreported flaws within the Bureau of Prisons. AP reporting has disclosed widespread criminal activity by employees, dozens of escapes, chronic violence, deaths, and severe staffing shortages that have hampered responses to emergencies, including assaults and suicides. The AP's investigation has exposed rampant sexual abuse at a federal women's prison in Dublin, California. Last year, President Joe Biden signed a law lengthening oversight of the agency after AP reporting spotlighted its many flaws. So that's that one. So we got two more that I'm going to do, and then we're going to go out into the outro. So the Competition Bureau is suing Canada's largest amusement park over advertising misleading prices on its website by not including fixed fees that range from 99 cents to $9.99. Like Cineplex, which also got hit with a Competition Bureau lawsuit, Canada's Wonderland charges a processing fee for online purchases. The Bureau alleges these fees are misleading, saying, quote, "This practice, commonly known as drip pricing, is deceptive because consumers are not presented with an attainable price up front," the Bureau said in a news release about the lawsuit. When booking a single Wonderland ticket online, customers must pay a $6.99 processing fee, but it can rise to $9.99 depending on how many tickets they buy. Many other online purchases come with a single 99-cent processing fee. The lawsuit aims to stop the deceptive price advertising while also forcing the park to pay a penalty and issue a restitution to affected customers. Looking at the Wonderland website today, there is a very large fine print explaining that tickets may come with a processing fee of up to $9.99. Using the Wayback Machine to go back to December of 2024, not that way back, the fine print is smaller but still legible. This case is similar to one from 2024 when the Competition Bureau won the deceptive marketing lawsuit against Cineplex, which was ordered to pay $38.9 million over its 1.50 online booking fee. Or sorry, not 1.50, $1.50. I'm fine. Online booking fee, which is interesting. I did not know that was happening. With that precedent set, it seems unlikely Canada's Wonderland will win out. The Cineplex court case took a year and 8 months to resolve, so don't expect this one to be over anytime soon. In a statement, the amusement park says, quote, "The allegations made by the Competition Bureau are unfounded, and we will defend our commitment to transparency and consumer value." Under Canadian law, drip pricing refers to the practice of promoting something at one price while concealing the real price from consumers until later in the purchasing process. Canada's Wonderland does not engage in this practice. From the outset, our guests receive disclosure of any applicable fees. We ensure customers understand exactly what they are purchasing. None of the allegations have been proven in court. So this is one we'll stay on, but again, as we know, we've mentioned before in past, legal actions take time. So it might take a little bit before we get anything about that. But yeah, as for the last one, this one's very, very recent. Weight Watchers has filed for bankruptcy. So, Weight Watchers, the 62-year-old program that revolutionized dieting for millions of people around the world, has filed for bankruptcy. The company announced Tuesday it has entered Chapter 11, which will bolster its financial position, increase investment flexibility in its strategic growth initiatives, and better serve its millions of members around the world. The company, now known as WW International, has struggled with about $1.5 billion in debt, that's in US dollars in debt, and has failed to keep pace with more convenient weight loss options, including GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic, over counting points and calories. During the bankruptcy process, its massive amount of debt will be eliminated, and it expects to emerge in about 40 days as a publicly traded company. Options for its members will continue as normal, it said. The decisive actions we're taking today, with the overwhelming support of our lenders and note holders, will give us the flexibility to accelerate innovation, reinvest in our members, and lead with authority in a rapidly evolving weight management landscape, said by the CEO, Tara Comonti, in a release. WW International has had rough few years after a turnaround plan from its former CEO, Seema Sasanti, failed. She was forced out of her position in September of 2024 after a 2.5-year stint. Sistini bought a telehealth platform that connected patients with doctors who can prescribe weight loss and diabetes drugs, representing a radical change for a service that made its name for in-person meetings and portion control. But the pivot didn't work, and the stock has plummeted. Sistani was replaced by Comanti, a former chief financial officer at fast food chain Shake Shack. Its most recent earnings release in February revealed a 12% decline in members, and that its $100 million in interest payments on debt is a significant ongoing burden for the company. WW took another hit last year when star investor Oprah Winfrey announced she was leaving the company's board after nearly a decade holding that position, and donated all of her stock to a museum. The former talk show host credited the program for help losing 40 pounds in 2016, but later revealed that she had also used an unnamed weight loss drug to lose more. So, in case you're interested in the history of Weight Watchers, here we go. The company was founded in 1963 by Jean Nitschke, a self-described overweight housewife obsessed with cookies who was fed up with fad diets and pills. She began hosting weekly meetings at her home with friends and discussed their difficulties with dieting and exercise. Compulsive eating is an emotional problem, she told the Time magazine in 1972, and we use an emotional approach to its solution. Abiding by her philosophy, it's choice, not chance, that determines your destiny. And she lost more than 70 pounds and kept it off. Part of its success can be attributed to its point system, where one number represents each food and drink's calories, saturated fat, sugar, and protein. The company had 3.3 million subscribers at the end of 2024. WW's shares have devolved into a penny stock, a far cry from when it was trading at its peak at around $100 in 2018. Well, wish them all the best. I mean, there's no one that I know people who've used Weight Watchers. I've used Weight Watchers. Um, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. But that's it for me. And I think that's it for the episode. We're going to go now into the outro. All right. Well, let's go to a little bit of a lighter topic, kind of. We'll see. Again, I haven't read these articles fully, so let's see what's going to happen here. But we're coming back over to Ontario. So we have multiple new laws and regulations that have taken effect as of this month. So we're looking at that these things here can affect everyday employers, businesses, and those seeking dental care. So here's what we have coming as of has already been in in effect. So, new job protected leave. So, back in December, Ontario's Working for Workers 6 Act 2024 received royal assent and introduced a brand new unpaid long term illness leave into the Employment Standards Act, which is set to come into effect as of June 19th. So, that's in a few days. The new leave provides employees in Ontario with up to 27 weeks of leave during a 52-week period and is available to those who have been continuously employed for 13 consecutive weeks. So, to qualify, the employee must meet two conditions. So, one, they must not be working due to a serious medical condition. And two, a qualified health practitioner must issue a certificate that confirms that the employee has a serious medical condition and sets out a length of time for which the employee will not be working because of that condition. So, Canadian Dental Care Plan renewals and coverage. So, in March, the federal government announced that all remaining eligible Canadians aged 18 to 64 would be able to apply for the Canadian Dental Care Plan as of May, with coverage starting as early as June 1st. So, as part of this CDCP, so that's the Canadian Dental Care Plan, more than 3.4 million Canadians were approved to receive coverage in its first year. To continue receiving coverage, current CDCP members must have filed their 2024 tax return and received their 2024 notice of assessment from the Canada Revenue Agency before applying for renewal online or by phone.
Hmm.
If you're under the plan, you must submit your renewal application by June 1st of 2025 to ensure that you have uninterrupted coverage. For those who fail to renew, your coverage will end on June 30th, and any oral health care services received during a gap in coverage will not be eligible for reimbursement. So that I kind of knew already because of my mom. But anyways, municipal accommodation tax increase, which I don't know what this is, between June 1st and July 31st, 2026. The city of Toronto, that's probably why I don't know what this is, will be temporarily increasing the mandatory municipal accommodation tax rate on a transient accommodations from 6% to 8.5%. The MAT provides funding for Destination Toronto, which supports the city's tourism industry along with programs and services that visitors take advantage of when visiting, such as transit, parks, natural areas, and recreation. So, effective as of June, the 8.5% MAT across Toronto applies to hotels, including full service, limited service, small hotels, motels, hostels, clubs, private or fraternal, condo hotels, and the portion of a multi-use complex that provides transient accommodation. So TTC tokens, didn't think we are going to be talking about that, did ya? Neither did I. And tickets. So if you're still hanging on to any TTC tokens, first of all, sell it. You might be able to make some money on those. Or tickets. You have,
Really? You think so?
yeah, I think eventually, maybe not quite yet, but down
Uh-huh.
the line, if you still have a TTC token, oh yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Really good
Yeah,
money for that.
like the $2 bill. Remember
Yeah,
that?
because who has those?
I still do. I have
You
a couple.
do?
Yeah, I still have a couple.
I've never seen a $2 bill in metal. Like, that
Yeah.
I've like no, I've never seen a $2 bill. You must have gotten that from somebody else, because I don't think that's ever really even been in our lifetime. I feel like
Yeah, it has
before I was
actually.
born.
Just younger. When we were younger, yes, it
I don't
has.
remember. Maybe it's not 'cause
But
I didn't
like
have money, but I
for
only
like
ever remember having toonies and
one,
movies.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6 year, probably like around that time frame.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
I think down the line, yeah, for sure. I don't have TTC tokens. 'Cause you can't get TTC tokens anymore, right? So I
Yeah, I hardly use them. I
because
hardly use them. I don't
because
know.
you don't get them anymore. I haven't used a token in like 10 years
Yeah, because
easily.
Presto came around.
And I don't even think tokens even like there's nowhere to put tokens anymore.
No.
Okay, maybe there is. Maybe if you have like the money, they can still put it in the thing is.
You know where the officer is? You know where the like
Yeah. Yeah, but
the
I
TTC
thought they maybe would
officer
have
is?
gotten rid of those by now, but maybe not. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but like that's like where you would put them. But like again, that just goes to show you how much
Mhm.
I don't do that anymore because I don't even remember where they are, if they're even there anymore, because I use my Resto card.
Yeah, 'cause I remember people used to put it into the token slot when you open the
Yeah, 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 yeah.
doors,
And you would just go through.
and
You
then
could just go through after
and then
that.
they removed it, and then they put it near to the where the TDC officer is. Like, like you had to go to him to just like if you have a token, you either put it under or put it into the slot or something like that.
Yeah, you put it in the slot, you drop in, and
Hmm.
then you can go.
Hmm.
But the either depending on what like station you were at, you could either go to like the where you would pay to get more tokens or whatever. You can put them in there, or you could just give it to like where an officer was like manning the station. But they don't have that anymore. Even like I'm thinking like Queen Street,
Hmm.
Queen Station, they would always have like a person manning the
Hmm.
entrance into
Hmm.
the station going southbound. At the end of the day,
Hmm.
they don't even have that anymore
No,
because like
yeah,
you don't have people using tokens anymore.
no,
It's not a
no.
thing.
You can scan it with your Presto card. You
Yeah,
can use your scan it with your phone.
yeah,
Um, that's it.
yeah. Like that's
Uh,
kind of what it's come
yeah.
to. You don't need tokens anymore. I don't even know
Mm.
like would tokens still be valued at the price it is now? Like I don't even know. Because back then when I last had a token, it was $3 to go to use the to get on the subway.
Mhm.
Now it's not $3. So it's like,
Mhm.
will you still let me go in? Like I don't know. But yeah, again, like I don't yeah, I
Image somebody goes into with a token is and just saying like, what? When did you guys get rid of tokens?
yeah, but apparently they're not fully gone. Well, now they are gone
Well,
now.
I saw
But
I saw signs in the subway, right? And it said this date that when they're getting rid of tokens. And yeah, yeah.
yeah. So that's why they say here, if you're still hanging on to any TTC tokens
Hmm. Hmm.
or tickets, which again,
Hmm.
didn't know they still had tickets. I mean, Go Transit hasn't had a ticket
I remember, yeah,
in forever.
those red printers, those red like those red like they still have those? 'Cause I remember I seen one.
Apparently, I guess. I don't
Those
know.
like when you press that button, it just prints out like those those tickets
You're thinking the transfers.
transfers. Yeah, that's what
Those
I'm
are
thinking.
transfers. So those are
Yeah.
the little different.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Never mind. Okay.
those are different, yeah.
Okay. All
But
right. Transfers. Yeah.
yeah, but
It.
again,
Yeah.
you don't you don't get transfers anymore. They
I
don't
still
print those anymore
I
because
still see those.
it goes based on your Presto card,
Yeah.
right? So like yeah, you don't even have to worry about that anymore. Again, I haven't had one of those transfers in my hand in like 10 plus years. Like I mean, no, it's weird. Anyways, they say though, if you have until the end of well, you're out of luck now, guys, but you had until the end of May to use them because those traditional fare methods will no longer be accepted as of June 1st. So at the TDC board meeting back in December, commissioners voted to extend the deadline for riders using any remaining TTC tickets, tokens,
Mm-hmm.
or day passes they may have from December 31st, 2024
Mm-hmm.
to the beginning of June. The deadline was extended to give commuters a last chance to use up the remaining tokens and tickets as refunds, exchanges, or credits will not be provided.
Mm-hmm.
The TTC argues that the number of customers using tickets, tokens, and day passes has been extremely low and declining. No, we were
Mm-hmm.
just talking about it. But
Yeah.
with less than 1% paying through these types of fares,
Well, those 1% gonna be complaining.
those are the older people who can't let it go. You know what she's
Oh, I
um
hate technology. I want to pay on my tokens.
oh Lord. Over the past few years, the TTC has been working to modernize its fare payment across the system, and soon the only way to pay your TTC fare will be through cash, a debit card, a credit card, or
Fair
Presto.
enough. Cash. Okay, that's
Yeah,
old
you can still
school
pay cash. You can still do
though.
that. Um, and you probably will still get your little transfers too if you need to.
Okay. Cash is almost going away soon. You better enjoy it when it
No,
lasts.
it's not going away. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. Um, you can still pay your fare with cash in station fare boxes,
Mhm.
and on buses and streetcars. The DTC stopped selling its tokens, youth senior tickets, and day passes at stations in December of 2019.
Yeah.
That I remember. I remember that.
Mhm.
And third-party retailers stopped selling TTC tickets in July of 2022 and tokens in March of 2023. I'm surprised that they were selling it past them. That's insane to me. But anyways, that um is basically it for that. So, nothing too crazy with the new laws and regulations, but yeah, that's what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, things are changing, you know?
I
But
mean, yeah, like I said, like since Presto has been a thing and
mhm.
since TTC adopted Presto because
Yep.
they didn't start right away.
Yeah, no.
Um Go Transit was first to
Yeah.
start and then,
Yeah.
trickled to everything else.
I
It
remember
was bound to happen.
I didn't trust it. I was like, "It's a scam."
Trust Presto?
That's a scam.
I mean, I've been
Nah.
using Presto since,
I know,
oh
but
God, it's 12 years now since I've been
yeah,
using
yeah.
Presto.
When it first came, I'm like, someone scammed me from,
Yeah, I didn't start right away. I feel like it still took me about, like, I don't even think a year. I'm not even think it's
yeah,
that long, but
yeah,
yeah, I think my mom started first and then I jumped on it
yeah,
after.
yeah.
Um,
And you're just like,
because I know
oh,
initially, yeah, I was using like the passes on Go
yeah,
Transit.
yeah,
Like you get like
yeah,
um you can buy like the two-sided passes
yeah, yeah,
and then you just like it would just like put the hole
yeah,
in them or whatever. Like that's how old I am.
yeah,
Um but that's like what I would do
yeah,
initially and buy like a
uh,
bunch of those.
yeah.
Um but I think that was only when I was doing placement.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was actually working full time for the first time, that was in 2013, January 2013, I was pretty much using Presto at that point because I remember loading up my Presto for the first time online. I mean, even that's been a journey because initially, when you can load your Presto online, which that was like maybe a year into using it, it
Mm-hmm.
was just a crapshoot initially. 'Cause you would have to go up to the teller at Go Transit and say, "I like to put my money on my Presto card and tell them how much and blah, blah, blah," and they would do that all for you. Um, Gone are those days.
Yeah.
I do it on my phone, and
Mm-hmm.
I love that I could do it on my phone too, because I can literally load it on my Presto card right from my phone.
You can do that on your wallet too, your digital wallet as well. You can load it on your
Yeah,
digital wallet as well
I
too.
don't do
So
it on my wallet so
I do
much.
it on there. I do it on
Yeah.
there. Convenient. I don't
Yeah,
have
no,
to like go
I
to the
still
machine.
I still use my Presto,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
think, like, when I'm the person behind the person because I've seen, like, your phone
Mm-hmm.
hang up the Presto machines,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "That's annoying." It doesn't do that for the cards. So, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't wanna be the person who's using my phone to hang up the Presto machine, and then the person behind me who's using a card is getting screwed over. So, I still use my card, but I can literally load my card right from my phone. It's
Mm-hmm.
freaking amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, otherwise, like, I
Mm-hmm.
will never go
Mm-hmm.
back.
Yeah. Well, no, nowadays they have like, discounts like for your card, like, going to the CN Tower. They have a
Mhm.
50% discounts on there.
Yeah.
If
I
you
did
have
that
that,
with the
yeah,
CNE last year.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ripley's Aquarium as well, 50%. Going
Mhm.
to the Rogers Center, 30%.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a lot of discounts nowadays. Like they're improving on their
Well, it's
perks.
not a
Oh,
newer thing
yeah.
really. They've been doing that
Hmm.
for years.
Hmm.
But you just tend to forget that they have them. But no,
Hmm.
but they've been doing that since before COVID, that you could get sales like
Before
that.
COVID? Oh yeah,
Hmm.
then it's probably new. It's probably new because they didn't start it right away.
No, no, no. It
No.
wasn't
Hmm.
like initially
Hmm.
with when the Presto like started. No,
Hmm.
no, no. It wasn't initial.
Hmm.
But I would say they've been doing it for the better part of 6, 7 years.
Hmm.
That you could get like deals. I think they've added on to it throughout the years, but I remember CNE was like one of the first ones that they can get deals on. Um, I think you get a deal through when you go to Wonderland as well. I think they started doing that too. I think if I might be incorrect on that, but there was something else that they did as well that they definitely did. I just can't remember which place it was. But yeah, like that's not been new. They kind of started with like 2, 3 deals, and I think it's grown over the years since.
Yeah, yeah, I'm seeing
Um,
it right now.
so yeah,
There's a lot of
it's a lot.
cool deals. Taco Bell is one of them. What that? What?
I'm not eating a Taco Bell. I don't want to destroy my stomach, but
Hmm.
yeah, like there's so much. Like I didn't even like when I went to go look at the CNE, I remember saying to my mom, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go to CNE with my brother." Um, it was kind of her who's like, "Oh yeah, I remember there's deals through Pastro," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." So like you go through, it's like, holy crap, there's so much. It's definitely grown
Yeah,
over the years, but yeah, it's
Marvish Theaters. You say with the 50
Mervish.
Mervish, my bad. Mervish. You say with the 50%. Oh wow. Yeah,
Are you serious?
yeah. That's what it
Oh,
says.
that would have come in real handy with Hamilton. But
It
anyways,
says
I
yeah.
don't think they were at Mervish. No, well, Mervish is like the company that you can get the
Yeah,
tickets from. So,
yeah,
um, doesn't matter where they're playing necessarily. But yeah, that would have come so handy.
yeah. It's like
50%?
yeah,
Do you know how
50%.
much we could have gone for? Like $150 versus like $330
Yeah,
per
yeah,
person. But
yeah.
yeah, actually, it wasn't that expensive. We were lucky, I think, because they were on the way out. But
Mm.
anyways,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so let's leave Canada for a minute and let's head over to China for a second because
Mm-hmm.
this is actually quite devastating. So
Mm-hmm.
the roof of the historic Ming Dynasty Tower collapses. This
Hold
happened on
on.
May 21st. So hundreds of tiles have fallen from the roof of a centuries-old tower in China's Anhui province, of was that right? Smashing to the ground near visitors to the site. Eyewitness footage shows sections of the roof collapsing, narrowly missing a number of people. Local media cited a Feng Yang County Culture and Tourism Bureau statement that said no one was injured in the incident, which happened at around 6:30 local time. The Drum Tower, reportedly the largest in China, was built in 1375 during the Ming Dynasty, but had undergone an extensive rebuild in 1995. Officials for the county around 200 miles away from the capital, Beijing, said an investigation was underway in a post shared on China's instant messaging app WeChat. Fangyang County is famous for being the hometown of the Ming Dynasty's founding emperor, Hongwu Emperor Zhu. Oh God, Hu. It might be Hu. Um, Young Yu. Okay, I'm so God. Okay, sorry. Young Zhang, I think is how you say the name. Local authorities reportedly moved bystanders from the scene following the collapse and secured the area. The investigation will be looking at the repair project's design and construction, a statement seen by local media added. Reports say supervision units were also sent to the site with experts invited to assist in the investigation and verification process. So the tower is closed while repairs are carried out with a reopening date date due to be announced at a later date. So,
Mm.
I mean, I hope everyone is okay.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that the I hope I hope it's okay too, because I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's a piece of history. I mean, even if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure somewhere in your mind you're probably thinking you might know what I'm talking about, and you're probably correct. That is the building, and it's just it's it's sad when those kind of things happen. It's history, but anyways, I want to take a little detour to something not fun per se, but a little different than what we normally do. But just because I really love this person, I want to kind of just talk about it, especially because he was
What?
supposed, yeah, no, he was supposed to come to Toronto to perform. Me and my mom were actually thinking about going to see him, but then we all got really sick. So it was a good thing that we didn't pay any money to see him, but it wouldn't have mattered because, yeah, Billy Joel canceled all his scheduled shows due to a brain disorder diagnosis. So, in case someone is a Billy Joel fan, which what are you doing with your life, first of all? Secondly, um, he was, like I said, supposed to come to Toronto, I think it was March 13th, and then it ended up being canceled because he had fallen, I think, on stage not long before that particular concert. Not sure what was going on. I guess he was still not feeling well. He canceled the Toronto concert and then he canceled all the rest. So, Billy Joel's upcoming tour dates have been canceled as the legendary performer seeks treatment for normal pressure hydrocephalus or cephalus, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
pH is what I'll be calling it going forward, which is a condition that affects the brain, according to a statement released on, is that on Friday, so not too long ago. The statement posted on his Instagram page stated that Joel's condition, quote, has been exacerbated by recent concert performances, leading to problems with hearing, vision, and balance, hence his fall earlier before this. Under his doctor's instructions, Billy is undergoing a therapy and has been advised to refrain from performing during this recovery period. He's thankful for the excellent care he's receiving and is fully committed to prioritizing his health. I mean, he's no young man. He's in his 70s. Um, yeah, so he should definitely prioritize his health. The statement added that Joel, quote, looks forward to the day when he can once again take the stage. CNN has reached out to Joel for further comment. The singer was quoted in the statement saying he was sincerely sorry to disappoint our audience. Normal pressure or NPH is a very rare condition that occurs when a person has too much fluid in the brain, according to Yale Medicine. Fewer than 3% of adults over the age of 65 are diagnosed with NPH, and it affects men and women equally. It was previously announced in March that Joel was postponing 8 tour dates so that he could focus on recovering from recent surgery. A statement posted to his Instagram page at the time that he was set to undergo physical therapy under the supervision of his doctors. While I regret postponing any shows, my health must come first. I look forward to getting back on stage and sharing the joy of live music with our amazing fans. Um, and adding that he was expected to make a full recovery from the undisclosed medical condition. The Piano Man singer announced that he was canceling 17 dates total, including the 8 rescheduled shows. Um, so his statement notified ticket holders that they will be automatically refunded the cost of their tickets. Um, so I will say too, like I think this is I was kind of talking about this with my boss, which funny enough, he actually shared a name with Billy Joel. I won't say which one though. But he basically said that like his ticket sales were so cheap,
So, Chip.
really cheap. Like you could
Mm.
get like practically like up close to the stage, and they were like $300. And I remember like telling my mom, like, "Oh my God, like, these tickets are so cheap," and she's like, "Are you sure that they're priced?" I'm like, "I'm looking." at like the official ticket like master website. Yes, that's what it is. And I remember talking to my boss about it because he said it's like he's a huge Billy Joel fan, and he's like, yeah, he does that because he hates those like ticket master type um companies. So he does it
Mhm.
so he can chip them. That's incredible. But yeah, so I mean, it's sad that, he's dealing with this, but he'll hopefully he'll get back to health, being healthy and get back out there and do what he does best.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you do know who Billy Joel is, right, Tomoko?
Mm.
Oh
Not
my God.
really. Not really. I need to see a picture.
You might not recognize a picture though, because like I feel like Billy Joel is the kind of person, at least for me,
Hmm.
I rarely ever saw pictures of him,
Hmm.
but when you name a song, it's like, oh yeah, for sure, I know that song. Piano Man,
Okay.
sing me a song, you're the piano man. Sing
Never
us a
heard that
song.
song.
What? We didn't start the fire? We didn't start the fire. It was
I
so
need to hear the
at
song
the
if I
roof
don't
turned.
recognize the song when you're singing it.
Oh, come on. Okay. Homework for you. Just listen to one Billy Joel song. That's your homework. And come back. Because come on. This is come on. He's incredible. Like, okay. All right. Let's move on before I keep going on this.
Yeah.
Um, so let's see what else we're gonna talk about. I know you said you had something too, right?
Uh, not on today's episode.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna be doing all that
I'm
heavy
doing all the
lifting.
heavy lifting on this one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All
Lifting
right. So
weights
we don't
today.
have we don't have much more articles to go through because I thought we had a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more, but that actually has to do with my secret lives of Mormon wife stuff. So we don't have to talk about that on this podcast.
Yeah.
But this next one, where I'm sorry guys, we're right back to the Oompa Loompa. But this has to do with he had the South African, I don't know if it's considered prime minister or president. I should ask my boyfriend that. But either way, he did have the country's leader at the White House back in May. And honestly, Trump made a bit of a tone deaf comment. We'll say that, but here we go.
Hmm.
So, an image used by U.S. President Donald Trump as evidence of a white genocide in South Africa. As a person who is with a South African man who has talked about the life of a black man in South Africa, the white genocide. I mean, the racism
Wow.
in South Africa isn't really no different than the States by the way that he's described it. So it's just
Hmm.
like the white genocide. Okay, let's let's
Hmm.
keep reading though, because maybe
I
I'm
heard he invited
misunderstanding.
did he invited the is it the prime minister to the White House?
Our prime minister or
No, 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 no. South
the
Africa's.
the South African? I'm gonna assume yes, just because he was there. Like this picture I'm looking at is of like the
Hmm.
White House.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna say yes. But yeah. It kind of seems like there was a reason behind him doing this. So yeah, so this picture that he was using to evidence or to show white genocide in South Africa during a meeting with its president, so Cyril Ramaphosa, about that week, was pulled from footage captured in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So not even in the country for which the man is from, but Congo. A Reuters fact-checking report found. I love when they fact-check Donald Trump. Anyways, the news agency confirmed that the photograph Trump showed Ramaphosa was a screenshot from a Reuters video that was published on February 3rd.
Wow.
According to the agency, the video shows humanitarian workers carrying body bags in the Congolese city of Goma. Trump's printed image was taken from footage shot following deadly battles with Rwanda backed M23 rebels in that region. and was filmed by Reuters video journalist, I think it was Jafar al-Kantanti. Quote, that day, it was extremely difficult for journalists to get in. I had to negotiate directly with M23 and coordinate with the ICRC to be allowed to film. This was said
Mm.
by the journalist. Only Reuters has video, he continued, adding that it was quite a shock to see the US president use his image to make unsubstantiated claims. In view of the world, President Trump used my image, used what I filmed in DRC to try to convince President Ramaphosa that in his country, white people are being killed by black people. I think that feels like racism, don't you? Because I do. However, Trump said in the Oval Office that the image showed the bodies of farmers being persecuted in South Africa
Mhm.
because they are white, a conspiracy theory which has circulated among the far right for years and is based on false claims. I want to add this little piece in. The reason that there are white people in South Africa is called slavery. Anyways,
Mhm.
the photo shown to Ramaphosa by
Yep.
Trump was published alongside a blog post written by American Thinker, a conservative online publication covering violent conflicts and racial tensions in South Africa and Congo, which in turn pulled the image from a Reuters video report on YouTube.
Mm.
In a written statement to the news agency, the author and managing editor of the American Thinker article, Andrea Whitberg, said that President Trump had, quote, misidentified the image, but added that her post referred to what it said is Ramaphosa's, quote, dysfunctional, race obsessed Marxist government. Those are words, and that his content, quote, pointed out the increasing pressure placed on white South Africans.
Mm.
I don't know. Am I mean because I don't care? Because I'm not saying I don't care. Here's what I'll say.
Mhm.
Black people have continuously been put in this box of we're no good. We don't matter. It doesn't matter what country we're in. But
Yeah.
to hear people say that white people are being, thrown aside by black people in South Africa, it's like, A, I don't believe it. I don't
Mhm.
think that's happening. Number two, number two, it's even if it were to be happening,
Mhm.
what do you think happens to black people all the time? Like live a day in our shoes. You know what I mean? But again,
Yeah. Yeah.
just based on what I've been told by a person who was born and raised in
Mhm.
that country.
Mhm.
Now, again, he hasn't been in the country since he was 18. Let's just
Mhm.
say I won't say his age, but it's been a bit. Um,
Mhm.
it's it's not that way. It's just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
So the Trump
Yeah.
administration did not reply to Reuters' request for comment. Of course not. The president also showed Ramaphosa a 5-minute video, which he said was further proof of white genocide in the country. Ugh. The footage showed a populist politician playing a controversial anti-apartheid song that includes lyrics about killing a farmer. Quote, people are fleeing South Africa for their safety, Trump said, following the brief screening before insisting that the video depicted the graves of 1,000 white farmers. However, according to The Guardian, the footage was taken at a highway connecting the small towns of Newcastle and Normandy in South Africa and showed a memorial, not a burial site. Furthermore, Rob Hodgson, who set up a memorial to capture public attention, told the BBC it was not a burial site. Shortly after the meeting, the White House posted the video to its official Twitter account. Nothing presented in the video has been proven or corroborated by any authority. During the meeting, Ramaphosa said he was visiting Washington to reset and recalibrate the relationship between the US and South Africa and
Mhm.
to advance trade relations. Tensions heightened between the two nations earlier this month or in May after President Trump granted American citizenship to a group of white South Africanian, oh God, Afrikaans, but I'll say that because this is who claim they were being persecuted at home.
Mhm. Mhm.
which I doubt that's even true. Meanwhile, okay, hold on. Before I even continue, we'll grant citizenship to white South Africans, but we will kick out Latinos. Okay, I feel it. More on that in a minute. Meanwhile, Trump said the purpose of their encounter was to smooth over fears about the African nation, stating, quote, "We have a lot of people who are very concerned with regards to South Africa." And before Trump could answer a question put to him by an NBC reporter regarding his white genocide claims and how he could be convinced no such tragedy was taking place, Ramaphosa interjected, quote, "I can answer that," he said, adding that Trump must listen first and foremost to the stories and testimonies of the South African delegation present in the Oval Office. I think that is also a mic drop. So, oh God, I just don't understand this Oompa Loompa. I can't. Um, Hey everyone, I'm coming in with some articles in the middle here of our bonus episodes. So, this one has to do with Disneyland, and this actually has to do with potentially bringing Walt Disney back to life as an audio animatronic for Disneyland's 70th anniversary. So, Disney invited the people who did this article and a few others into the secret halls of Walt Disney Imagineering to see how they are bringing their founder back to life through the magic of audio animatronics for Walt Disney, A Magical Life for Disneyland's 70th anniversary. And it is shaping up to be a project filled with respect, authenticity, incredible little details, and a ton of Disney magic. So, Walt Disney A Magical Life will debut at Disneyland's Main Street Opera House on July 17th, 2025, which will be exactly 70 years after Disneyland itself opened. And the show will invite guests from all across the world into Walt's office to learn more about his story and how he changed the world of entertainment forever. While we didn't get to see the actual audio animatronic, this is the article of Walt Disney. What they did see and hear about has given them the confidence and excitement that Disney may just pull off this ambitious and meaningful project in a spectacular fashion. So they said that they were welcomed into a room at Walt Disney Imagineering for this presentation. They were told what guests can expect from Walt Disney, A Magical Life, and why this was the right time to have Walt return to the only Disney park he ever walked in. Quote, "It's a huge responsibility, as I'm sure you could imagine, bringing Walt Disney to life in audio animatronics," said by Tom Fitzgerald, a senior creative executive of Walt Disney Imagineering. "I think we are giving the same care and attention that Walt and his team did with Lincoln many decades ago. They worked very closely with the Walt Disney Family Museum and our archives department. We looked at hours and hours and hours of footage and interviews to pull together what we think is the most authentic presentation possible, and we believe Walt's story is as valid and relevant today as it ever was. The idea of following your dream, the fact that you will have setbacks, but you can turn those setbacks into success. No matter what, follow that dream. Most importantly, the team assured them they are taking every precaution to bring Walt back the right way and not rush things. This project has been in development for more than 7 years, and the idea of a Walt figure has even been an idea at the company for decades. However, it just didn't feel right until now. Quote, "We have worked very diligently for many years with the Walt Disney Family Museum and with members of the Disney and Miller family and the board," said by Jeff Shaver Moskowitz, executive producer at Walt Disney Imagineering. "And so we've taken care to make sure that the family is along the journey with us and that we feel that we presented a faithful and theoretical presentation that keeps Walt alive in the medium that he pioneered and in the way that we present stories in our parks." To that effect, we're authentically recreating the way Walt used his hands to accentuate points, his very expressive eyebrows, and even that glint in his eye that so many people who worked with him and knew him said he had. Also, the words spoken by Walt are spoken by Walt. They are taken from interviews over the years and pieced together so that everything Walt is saying is actually his own original words. While the author of this article didn't get to see the actual audio animatronic, like mentioned before, of Walt Disney, what they did share was a moment they'll never forget. There was a storyboard in the room they were in that showed a glimpse of the tale guests will see in Walt Disney, A Magical Life. And when they pulled that aside, a life-size model of Walt Disney that they built for reference when making the audio animatronic was right there. They can't truly describe the feeling of seeing this, but it felt as though Walt Disney was in the room with them. He was leaning again against his desk, as he was known to do when talking, and how he will appear in Walt Disney A Magical Life, and every detail was accounted for. His hands were recreated from a bronze casting of his actual hands that was created by Adrian Flat back in the 60s. He was wearing a suit made out of the actual material of suits he used to wear. Each strand of hair was perfectly punched into his head and styled with the same grooming products he used to give it the same sheen it would have had. He wore his smoke tree ranch tie he loved, and so much more. Even beyond that, there were blemishes on his skin, small hairs on his hands, and coming out of his nose, a wariness in his eyes alongside wrinkles, and even his nails were manicured in a way that wasn't perfect, but felt appropriate for a man who went about his day after an appointment. And that glimmer in his eye, they know it sounds cliche, but it worked. When you are looking at him, there is this undeniable light in his eye that makes this model even more believable, thanks a bit of Imagineering magic. We'll see how the actual audio animatronic turns out, but they truly felt as though Walt was there and that they were looking at a true piece of art crafted by a talented team of artists at the top of their game. It honestly left us speechless, they said. Quote, today with all of our phones, every guest can zoom in and do an extreme close-up for our figures, Fitzgerald said. So we had to sort of reinvent how we portray them. They have to look good from a distance, but they also have to look just as believable in an extreme close-up. That's new for us, particularly with human-based figures. We did a lot of innovation in coming up with a look that would be as realistic and authentic as possible to bring Walt Disney to life in the way that he brought Abraham Lincoln to life before a new era. This also links to another question they all had. Why was now the right time to bring Walt back? The answer is a complicated one, but it's a mix of Disneyland's 70th anniversary coming up, the technology reaching a point where they can do it the right way, and having the right people in the right places to honor his legacy. Walt Disney's daughter, Diane Marie Disney Miller, passed away in 2013, and one of her biggest accomplishments was co-founding the aforementioned Walt Disney Family Museum with her family. This museum opened its doors in 2009 in San Francisco and holds over 30,000 items related to Disney. The Walt Disney Family Museum was heavily involved in this project, and this our author had the chance to speak to its director, Kirsten, I think it's Komorski, about Walt Disney and Magical Life, what they donated for the show and exhibit, and also how Walt's living family feel about the project, saying, quote, Disney told us quite a while ago about Walt Disney and Magical Life because they wanted to make sure that the family, including Walt's grandchildren, were involved and felt comfortable. And I think that the primary feeling the grandchildren had was that Walt was so fascinated by the technology, and the Imagineers felt like their tech had advanced to a point where they could do this right and do it in a way that really did capture the man as he was in his professional life. There was just a lot of thought given to doing this thoughtfully and respectfully. The museum donated over 30 items for this exhibit, including artifacts and furniture used in Walt's private apartment above the fire station on Main Street. Some of these items include a green velvet upholstered rocking chair, glass lamps, and a floral embroidered tilt-top table that have never been publicly displayed at Disneyland before. There will also be many of his awards and humanitarian accolades for guests to see. A few that caught the author's eye were his Emmy Award from 1955 for Walt Disney's Disneyland TV show. Didn't know there was a TV show. His Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Johnson in 1964, and even his plaque from the Racing Pigeon Association that honored him for, quote, the greatest contribution ever made to the sport of racing pigeons, thanks to the 1958 film The Pigeon That Worked a Miracle. These items and more will be a part of the exhibit, Evolution of a Dream, that will open alongside Walt Disney Magical Life, offering even more a look into the life and work of Walt. Most importantly, Komrosky shared with the author that she believes this exhibit is continuing the legacy of Walt and Diane's mission of preserving his memory. Quote, Diane really wanted to tell the whole story of her father, who started from very humble beginnings and had some very significant failures, including losing Oswald, the lucky rabbit, and entering into some distribution deals that he ended up on the wrong side of. But she really wanted to show that despite these failures, he kept going and kept trying new things. He could have hung up his cleats after Mickey Mouse because he was such a success. But no, he wanted to do animated feature films, then he wanted to get into the live action, and then he wanted to start a theme park. So she wanted people to be inspired by it doesn't matter where you start from, it matters how your journey through life. And so to have that message as Disneyland more substantially is something the family is very, very grateful for. So the Walt Disney they'll be visiting in this show will be of him from around 1963, as the team took great inspiration from his well-known Fletcher Merkel Canadian broadcasting interview from that year. Quote, this is when Walt was really at his pinnacle. He's got the New York World's Fair shows in development. He's got Mary Poppins. He's got the Secret Florida Project, and Disneyland's doing great. He's got all these motion pictures and things, and he just has so much going on. He's so alive, and he's so excited to share all of this with us. As previously mentioned, he'll be standing in his office and welcoming everyone to learn about his story. This office will be a mix of the actual one he had in Burbank and the office set that was developed for his many TV appearances. Easter egg hunters will be delighted to know it will be filled with things to look for, including a photo of Abraham Lincoln, plans for Disneyland, and so much more. It's all meant to feel like you've dropped in and you get to have some great moments with him. As for exactly what he will be talking about in that office, you'll have to wait a bit longer to find out. However, the messaging is clear. Quote, while Walt will begin by talking about his legacy, he'll end by leaving you with a kind of profound thought. He may have had all of these amazing achievements over his lifetime in storytelling and animation, but one of his greatest gifts was to understand the simple virtues of life and to connect with people on those. He was a very humble man, despite being this titan of the industry, and that's the humanitarian piece of Walt that we're excited to bring forward as well. Throughout this entire presentation, there was so much reverence and respect given to Walt's legacy and doing this the right way. To get a bit more perspective on the project and that side of things, I was also able to speak to Disney historian, this is the author, Jeff Curtie, I believe, who has written over 40 volumes over the past 25 years about Disney and also worked at the company in the past. He's currently Chapman University's presidential fellow Walt Disney Studies, and he echoed these feelings as well. In the intervening decades since Walt's death, there have been no means to consistently present his reality, his persona, and his philosophy to new generations, where he once was an ongoing presence through the weekly television series, interviews, advertising, and so on. This attraction and presentation offer a means for new generations to see and understand Walt Disney as a real person and not a brand name, and to understand the work and philosophies that will inform the Disney company today and resonate in world culture. Walt Disney as a real person is as absent from the culture of current audiences as Abraham Lincoln is, and as unfamiliar to modern audiences as Honest Abe is. This is an excellent chance to bring Walt into currency and conversation. So that's basically it. There is a lot more to this article, but it's pretty long, so we'll end it there. So this one is going to be probably updated throughout the episode, is because this is constantly being updated currently. So 16 beer store locations are shutting down soon in Ontario. So the beer store announced this week that it will be closing 11 more stores in July. It followed an announcement last month where the company said it would be closing 5 stores in June. The decisions come amid the expanded alcohol marketplace in Ontario. Last year, thousands of convenience stores as well as additional grocery stores were permitted to start selling booze except for spirits. The changes expanded Ontario's alcohol market well beyond the 2 main stores where consumers were previously able to purchase booze, the beer store and the LCBO. Several beer store locations have shut down since, with the union representing workers blaming it on the change. Quote, "The beer store is modernizing operations to meet the needs of marketplace. This means making the difficult decision to close some stores," Vice President of Retail Ozzy Ahmed said in this week's news release. Closures are set to happen in various parts of Ontario. So here's a look at the stores that are set to close on June 15th and July 6th, as listed in the beer store's 2 recent announcements. So closing effective end of business day, June 15th, Toronto, 761 Queen Street West, East York, 1270 Woodbine Avenue. In Woodbridge, 7676 Islington Avenue West. In Ottawa, 2144 Clearing Avenue. And 250 Booth Street in Sault Ste. Marie will end its retail operations and turn into a distribution warehouse. Closing effective end of business day, July 6th, Toronto, 609 Roehampton Avenue, 1580 Avenue Road. In Aurora, this is a big one, 14800 Yonge Street. Richmond Hill, 13469 Yonge Street. In Oakville, 104 Lakeshore Road West. And then 1011 Upper Middle Road. In Kobokunk, oh, was that right? 6716 Highway 35. In Cornwall, 1396 2nd Street East. In Wirton, 690 Burford Street. In Windsor, 790 Goyer Street. And 1780 College Avenue. So we'll see, because there, like I said, is updates on this. This is not the only thing, but bear with me as we, go through the episode. The next piece, this is an interesting one for people who are old. Fear Factor returns with a brand new twist, nearly 25 years after the OG show debuted. So, on May 12th, Fox announced that the stunt game show will return in its upcoming season, nearly 25 years after it initially premiered on NBC. The new iteration of the series, Fear Factor: The Next Chapter, is a reimagined version of the show that Joe Rogan hosted from 2001 to 2006, with some new twists making it bigger, bolder, and more daring, per the network. Quote, "Dropped into an unforgiving remote location, a group of strangers will live together under one roof and face mind-blowing stunts, harrowing challenges, and a twisted game of social strategy where trust is fleeting and fear is a weapon," reads the official logline for the reboot. No release date is slated yet, but the reinvented series was announced as part of the network's 2025 to 2026 slate. Fox also did not weigh in on whether Rogan, who is now 57, will return as a host of the reimagined series. The original iteration of Fear Factor pitted 3 men and 3 women against each other in a stunt competition as they competed to win a $50,000 cash prize. Following its cancellation in 2006, there were various attempts at reviving Fear Factor, including an NBC where it originally aired and where a brief revival ran for 9 episodes in 2011. Later, MTV took a spin at the franchise with Ludacris as host, and that version ran for 2 seasons from 2017 to 2018. It saw celebrities compete too. There was a Bachelor-themed episode where alums including Rachel Lindsay, Corinne Olympos, and Vanessa Grimaldi competed, as well as a Jersey Shore episode that saw Nicole Snooki Paluzzi, Paul Pauly D. Del Vecchio, and more partake. Fear Factor: The Next Chapter will premiere on Fox in the 2025 to 2026 season. So that is that update if you're interested in that one. So we're going to take a break here, but I will be back maybe with more. So we'll say that this is going to be the last article, and this is an update to what we did last month. So if you remember, we talked about Kilmore Abriguero Garcia, who was one of the people who was deported to um what was the country again? I can't remember the country that it was deported to by me in the article, but he was deported to and he was incarcerated for potentially having gang affiliations.
Mm.
Well, he's been returned to the United States. Great news, huh?
Mm.
Wait for it. He is facing criminal charges.
Wow.
So Kilmer Abriguero Garcia, the Maryland man mistakenly deported to El Salvador back in March, has been returned to the United States to face federal criminal charges. Attorney General Pam Bondi said very recently, actually, this is just like last week, so Friday.
Mm. Mm.
For months, the Trump administration has been locked in an intense standoff with the federal judiciary over court orders for the government to facilitate Abigail Garcia's return from El Salvador, where he was mistakenly deported in mid-March, in a
Mhm.
situation that one federal judge warned could present an incipient crisis between the two branches. Abigail Garcia has been indicted on 2 criminal counts in the Middle District of Tennessee. They are conspiracy to unlawfully transport illegal aliens to financial gain. Oh my God. And unlawful transportation of illegal aliens for financial gain. When, how, and where he was deported. What is going on? Okay. The indictment unsealed Friday afternoon accuses Abigail Garcia and others of partaking in a conspiracy in recent years in which they knowingly and unlawfully transported thousands of undocumented aliens who had no authorization to be present in the United States, and many of whom were MS-13 members and associates. Abigail Garcia and his family say he fled gang violence in El Salvador and have denied allegations he's an MS-13 member.
Mm.
Simon Sandoval Maschenberg,
Mhm.
an attorney for Abigail Garcia, criticized the Trump administration as playing games with the court, 1,000%, casting the prosecution as an abuse of power. The government disappeared Kilmer to foreign prison in violation of a court order. Now, after months of delay and secrecy, they're bringing him back, not to correct their error, but to prosecute him. This shows that they were playing games with the court all along. So Sandoval Moschenberg said in a statement to CNN, due process means a chance to defend yourself before you're punished, not after. This is an abuse of power, not justice. The government should put him on trial, yes, but in front of the same immigration judge who heard his case in 2019, which is the ordinary manner of doing things, to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sentenced to El Salvador. So the allegations date back to 2016 and
Mhm.
involve a half dozen alleged unnamed conspirators, co-conspirators, with one identified as CC6 of
Mhm.
Guatemala, described as being a primary source of supply of undocumented aliens for the conspiracy. The conspiracy allegations outline how, over the years, Abigail Garcia and others worked to move undocumented aliens between Texas and Maryland and other states more than 100 times. Working with another co-conspirator, referred to as CC1, Abigail Garcia said that unnamed individual quote, ordinarily picked up the undocumented aliens in the Houston, Texas area after the aliens had unlawfully crossed the southern border of the United States from Mexico.
Mhm.
The two then transported the undocumented aliens from Texas to other parts of the United States to further the aliens' unlawful presence in the United States. Prosecutors said in the indictment that to cover up the alleged conspiracy, Abigail Garcia and his co-conspirators routinely devised and employed knowingly false cover stories to
Mhm.
provide to law enforcement if they were stopped during a transport, including claims that the migrants being transported were headed to construction jobs. The prosecutors portrayed Abigail Garcia as being central to a crime-driven conspiracy. They did not describe him as the mastermind of the years-long plot. Instead, he's identified as just one part of a sprawling conspiracy that was led by an unnamed co-conspirator. His conspiracy charges relate to a trip in November 2022 where Abigail Garcia is accused of driving a Chevrolet Suburban and was pulled over on a Tennessee interstate highway with nine other Hispanic male passengers who didn't have any identification or luggage. The indictment highlights how dangerous transport of undocumented immigrants can be. The court record says that in 2021, CC6 was involved in the transport operation of 150 migrants, where more than
Mhm.
50 died after a tractor trailer carrying them overturned in Mexico. It also describes the co-conspirator CC1 as being part of an alleged scheme of transferring money alongside Abigail Garcia. Another co-conspirator, CC2, is alleged with Abigail Garcia and another co-conspirator to have managed the cell phones of undocumented aliens to ensure they could not and would not contact anyone else during this trip within the U.S. Prosecutors allege that Abigail Garcia also transported narcotics to Maryland, though he wasn't charged with any crimes related to illegal drugs. So Abigail Garcia was mistakenly deported in March, as we said, to El Salvador due to an administrative error, according to an immigration and customs enforcement official. He was sent to the country's notorious mega prison where he was held for weeks before being moved to another facility. The case became a political lightning rod for the Trump administration and its deportation program, while Trump's shifting rhetoric about whether he could return the Maryland father had raised questions about the administration's willingness to comply with the courts. But the administration's initial acknowledgement in a court filing that it mistakenly deported him opened it up to heightened scrutiny, even among Republicans otherwise supportive of Trump's agenda. Across the aisle, Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen drew headlines when he visited Abigail Garcia in El Salvador, but his party has debated how much to embrace the Salvadorian nationals' removal and the due process of argument as a rallying cry of opposition to the administration. Trump has said this spring that he could secure Abigail Garcia's return, contradicting previous remarks made by him and his top aides, who said the U.S. did not have the ability to bring him back because he was in the custody of a foreign government, despite the Supreme Court's ruling that the Trump administration must facilitate his return. You can get him back. There's a phone on this desk. ABC News' Terry Moran said to Trump during an exclusive interview that aired in late April. Trump replied, I could. I could, but I don't want to. That's what that really means. The administration's posture and legal arguments in the case had consistently frustrated both conservative and liberal jurists alike, who raised alarm bells about officials' apparent disregard for due process rights given their cavalier response to the deportation, which several different administration lawyers described as an administrative error that they were powerless to rectify. In April, for instance, Bondi insisted that Abigail Garcia is not coming back to our country. Wow. President Bukele said he was not sending him back. That's the end of the story. If he wanted to send him back, he would give him a plane ride back. But Abigail Garcia's return is far from a guarantee that he will remain in the U.S. long term, which I'll talk about in a second, more my thoughts on that. The administration's decision to deport him to a notorious mega prison in El Salvador violated a 2019 order from a judge that said he could not be deported to his home country because of fears that he would face gang violence. That mandate, however, did not preclude the government from moving him to a third country. Officials have previously said if he returned to the US, they may deport him to another country or attempt to wipe away the 2019 order. The administration has alleged that Abigail Garcia is a member of MS-13 gang, which the government has designated as a foreign terrorist organization, though his attorneys have disputed the
Mhm.
claim. Um, so
Mhm.
we did talk about the judge that barred his removal, but we don't know how that went. I was going through this article. We talked about that. Okay, so basically, yes, he is back in the States, but
Mhm.
as said, he is facing criminal charges. Now,
Mhm.
personally, for me, do I think in a world there's a possibility that he could have done what they're alleging he did? Sure,
Right.
that can be the case for anybody. Um, but I do kind of want to know the grounds for why they think all of that.
Mhm.
Um, Especially under the light of everything that's going on currently. But for me, I feel like they're continuing on with these criminal charges because here's what happens. Yes, he's back in the States right now. Guaranteed he's still in a prison though.
Mhm.
So he's probably not out on bail while awaiting a trial, which, whatever. But my thing is that if he is indicted on these, if not just, if not one, both of these counts, he's going back. And I think that's the reason why they're doing this. They want to basically say, yeah, okay, we brought him back, but he's still a bad guy, so we're gonna do what he can to get him back out of the country. Like that's what it comes down to. I think, yeah, yeah, I think he's, yeah, I don't know. And I
Yeah.
guess we'll see kind of what happens with that. We'll
Mhm.
we'll
Mhm.
follow it. I imagine it's gonna take time, but
Yeah.
then again, you know, you have the right to a speedy trial, so we'll see how it goes. But again, too, when they kind of talk about like the due process, you're entitled to the due process um as an I guess in this, well, not even just an American, but in any country. But I think in this case, they will argue, well, he's not an American. He shouldn't even be here. Whatever else they want to say, and say that he's not entitled to due process, which is why we deported him in the first place. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't trust the administration. We've talked about it, but
Mhm.
yeah. All right. So I'm just coming in with some more articles that, doing without Mikel. But Robert F. Kennedy Jr. submerges in creek with high bacteria levels, including E. coli. This is amazing, guys. So, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. shared photos of himself submerged in Washington, D.C.'s Rock Creek with his grandchildren, despite long-standing warnings that high bacterial levels make the Potomac River tributary unsafe. I think that's the word. Quote, Mother's Day hike in Dumbarton Oaks Park with Amaryllis, Amaryllis, okay, Bobby, Kick, and Jackson, and a swim with my grandchildren, Bobcat, oh God, and Cassius and Rock Creek, RFK Jr. wrote alongside 4 photos from the outing posted to Twitter. The photos show the 71-year-old member of the Donald Trump's administration both sitting in the water and completely submerged in this shallow creek. Longstanding warnings from the National Park Service (NPS), however, say to stay out of the water because of high bacteria levels. Quote, Rock Creek has high levels of bacteria and other infectious pathogens that make swimming, wading, and other contact with the water a hazard to human and pet health, the federal agency warns on a webpage for the park. Staying out of the water also helps to protect the natural landscape from erosion and negative impacts to wildlife as well, according to the NPS. Washington, D.C. has banned swimming in waterways for over 50 years because of the widespread contamination. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, Rock Creek has been found to have fecal contamination from sewage and high levels of bacteria, including E. coli. Despite the federal warnings and signs in the area detailing the risks, people have been known to still swim or wade in the water. ABC News has reached out to RFK Jr. for comment. Yeah, nothing to say. Nothing to say. But that is that article. Next one. More than 2,000 Starbucks baristas go on strike to protest new dress code. So, a strike by Starbucks baristas protesting the company's new dress code grew. This was as of May 15th. More than 2,000 Starbucks baristas at 120 U.S. stores have gone on strike since that Sunday before to protest the new dress code, according to Starbucks Workers United, a union representing the coffee giant's U.S. workers. Starbucks put new limits starting, started on like Monday, whatever day that was in May, on what its baristas can wear under their green aprons. The dress code requires employees at company-operated and licensed stores in the U.S. and Canada to wear a solid black shirt and khaki black or blue denim bottoms. Under the previous dress code, baristas could wear a broader range of dark colors and patterned shirts. Starbucks said, first of all, this is City News, a Canadian affiliate. Spell colors correctly. Let's continue. And pattern shirts. Starbucks said the new rules would make its green apron stand out and create a sense of familiarity for customers as it tries to establish a warmer, more welcoming feeling in its stores. But Starbucks Workers United, the union that represents workers at 570 Starbucks, 10,000 company-owned U.S. stores, said that the dress code should be subject to collective bargaining. Starbucks has lost its way. Instead of listening to baristas who make the Starbucks experience what it is, they are focused on all the wrong things, like implementing a restrictive new dress code, said Paige Summers, a Starbucks shift supervisor from Hanover, Maryland. Customers don't care what color our clothes are when they're waiting 30 minutes for a latte. Summers and others also criticized the company for selling styles of Starbucks branded clothing that employees no longer are allowed to wear to work on an internal website. Starbucks said it would give 2 free black t-shirts to each employee when it announced the new dress code. Starbucks Workers Union said a total of 1,000 workers had staged walkouts at 75 U.S. stores. Starbucks said at the time that the strike was having a limited impact on its 10,000 company-operated U.S. stores. In some cases, the strikes closed stores for less than an hour, the company said. It would be more productive if the union could put the same effort into coming back to the table that they're putting into protesting wearing black shirts to work, Starbucks said in a statement. More than 99% of our stores are open today, serving customers, and have been all week. Associated Press readers who shared their opinions had mixed views of the dress code. Some said they didn't think Starbucks baristas had much to complain about, noting that many retailers require their workers to dress a certain way. True. Others said they thought Starbucks should focus on improving the quality and prices of its beverages and keeping workers happy instead of worrying about what its employees wear. Maddie Mucklow, who manages a Starbucks store in Seattle, said she's in favor of the new rules. Quote, I'll be honest, I think the dress code was a difficult change for the partners at my store. But the dress code gives us a more consistent boundary for how to show up best for each other while still expressing our individuality. Starbucks Workers United has been unionizing U.S. stores since 2021. Starbucks and the union have yet to reach a contract agreement, despite agreeing to return to the bargaining table in February of 2024. The union said this week that it filed a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board, alleging Starbucks' failure to bargain over the new dress code. So, I mean, I guess we'll see how it goes. I mean, I can maybe understand from a perspective of like you're used to one thing, you're now being told you gotta do something else. I definitely understand that, but I mean, Jesus, it could be worse. I don't know. Anyways, this is going to be about the Menendez brothers. As we know, they have been able to get resentenced. However, I do believe there is a bit of a delay in that. But here's kind of how it went down, y'all. So, almost 36 years after Eric and Lyle Menendez killed their parents with shotguns in a crime that captivated the nation, they appeared via video to address the Los Angeles judge who would decide whether they could ever be freed from prison. Saying, quote, I killed my mom and dad, Lyle said, now 57, at a resentencing hearing. I make no excuses. I take full responsibility. On August 20th, 1989, the brothers killed their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, at their Beverly Hills home. They were later sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But after a day of testimony and after they were backed by support letters from prison officers, Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Michael Jezik resentenced the brothers to 50 years to life, a change that will make them immediately eligible for parole. Eric Menendez, who is now 54, said, my actions were criminal, selfish, cruel, and cowardly. I have no excuse, no justification for what I did. I take full responsibility for my crimes. The brothers admitted they lied to police after the killings, saying, quote, after the killings, I denied all responsibility, Eric said. I am sorry for these lies. There is no excuse for my behavior. The pair have argued that they were sexually abused by their father. Lyle Menendez said that, quote, I was in a codependent relationship with my little brother over shared trauma. He said that after the killings, he still heard his father's voice in his head and that he kept those secrets because he thought no one would believe the alleged sex abuse. Which, I mean, he wasn't wrong, at least back then anyways. He said that he has had a personal evolution since 1996 when he and his brother were convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. I made a promise I would never use violence to solve a problem, Lyle said. If released, he said he plans to continue working with people who are incarcerated. Jezik's resentencing of the pair to 50 years to life in prison does not mean that they are freed yet. Their parole will have to be approved by the State Board of Parole Hearings, which usually sets a hearing 6 months in advance. A decision to parole them would be up for review by California Governor Gavin Newsom, who, as I believe, hearing about it. That review process can take up to 150 days following a parole hearing, according to the governor's website. There's also a separate effort by the brothers to have Newsom grant them clemency, which would allow them to be released immediately, but that process is pending. Members of the brothers' family have sought their release from prison. Lyle apologized to his family members, saying, quote, I'm so sorry to each and every one of you. I lied to you and forced you into a spotlight of public humiliation you never asked. So that's basically what's going on there. I do know they're delayed with their parole hearing, I believe, for about 2 months after this. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Of course, I'll keep the update going on that. But just one more quick thing, and this looks like it's more in America, but there are new car seat regulations going into effect. So what parents need to know. So parents purchasing a new car seat in the next year will want to be aware of an important safety update. Starting June 30th of this year, all car seats sold in the U.S. must meet new federal safety standards aimed at improving protection during side impact collisions. The regulation issued by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is a major move toward reducing child fatalities and injuries in what experts consider one of the most dangerous types of crashes. These new standards are a major step forward in protecting children during one of the most serious types of crashes, the agency told Good Morning America. So first we get into why is this kind of happening now? So side impact collisions, also known as T-bone crashes, can be particularly deadly for children because there is less space and structure between them and the point of impact. While frontal crashes remain the most common, the NHTSA noted that side impacts cause nearly as many fatalities and serious injuries for children under 12. So, why weren't side impact tests part of the original safety standards? According to the NHTSA, the delay was due to the extensive data required under the Vehicle Safety Act. We focus on frontal crash protection first because those are the most frequent crashes and lead to the most injuries and deaths in child car seats. It wasn't until years of research, including the development of a specialized side impact crash dummy and test, that the agency was able to introduce a new rule based on real world risks. So, what is FMVSS number 213A? The updated regulation, Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard number 213A, as a new sled test for child seat simulating a 30-mile per hour side impact crash involving two vehicles. The rule applies to child seats designated for children weighing under 40 pounds. NHTSA's new standard ensures that child seats can restrain the child, prevent harmful head contact with a vehicle door or seat structure, and reduce crash forces to the chest. So what this means for parents, if you already own a car seat, there's no need to replace it. As long as it hasn't expired, is correctly installed, and has not been recalled. Quote, current child seats are highly effective in reducing the likelihood of death or serious injury in vehicle crashes, the NHTSA said. To ensure maximum protection, the agency recommends using the correct type of seat based on your child's weight and height, following manufacturer instructions, and checking installation. Tools like the NHTSA's Find the Right Seat Guide and Inspection the Station Locator can help. For those shopping for a new seat, many brands are already ahead of the June 2025 deadline, the NHTSA said. While not all packaging will explicitly mention compliance with the FMVSS 213A, consumers can contact manufacturers directly to confirm. According to the NHTSA, all car seats sold after June 30th, 2025 must meet the new standards. So, what should parents do now? So, check the expiration date of your current seat. Verify recalls and register your car seat with the manufacturer. Use installation guides or visit a certified safety technician, and ask your retailer or car seat brand if a new model meets the 213A standard. So, what's next? While this update represents a major leap in child passenger safety, the NHTSA said there are no additional updates planned for booster seats or other restraint systems at this time. However, the agency continues to conduct research and may revise guidelines as new data becomes available. In the meantime, parents and caregivers interested in the science behind these changes can view the crash tests that informed the new regulation. The NHTSA conducted 4 side impact crash tests with dummies representing 3-year-old children to ensure accuracy. These test numbers, so 6,634 through 6,637 are available in the NHTSA's research database. So, yeah, if you're interested in kind of knowing more about that, you can probably just search for the new regulation, which again is the FMVSS 213A through the NHTSA. So yeah, that's basically that. That's it for me on this part. We'll just go right back into me and Mikel, and then that'll be the end of the episode after that. So yeah, that's it for me here.
Okay.
That's
Mhm.
basically it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So this ends this episode of the Next Tape podcast. The Next Tape podcast is available now on all podcast platforms. We also have a website called Tanika.
Next Take Podcast, podpage.io.
And we are available where else?
Facebook and Instagram at Next Take Podcast, and Twitter, TikTok, and
hmm
Blue Sky at Next Take
hmm
Pod.
You can contact us on our email at mikeltanyka@gmail.com. That is mikeltanyka@gmail.com. So, yeah, we talked about a barrage of topics on, well, actually, Tanika talked about a barrage of topics. I was just basically here on this episode. Uh, but yeah, uh, yeah, a barrage of topics that, Tanika can't just list. So, like, it's just a lot of topics. I don't want to
Yeah,
just,
we
like,
talked about the
list it.
beer store,
Yeah, yeah,
Trump,
yeah,
and then more Trump,
yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Harvard. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, if you're listening to this episode, dive in and um and listen
Yeah.
deeply. Okay. All right. Anything else you want to say to Nika before we head out?
No, I mean, we're still also doing our Pride Month
Mm-hmm.
series.
Definitely.
Yep. So we have the third episode, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think so.
That's coming, yeah.
Yeah, the third episode is coming
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow.
All right. You guys will get that. All right. I have nothing else to say, so like,
Okay.
that confirms it right there. So like, I'm Mikal, and
And I'm Tanika.
we're out until
Tomorrow.
tomorrow. See you guys.
Bye.